Welcome everybody to tonight's meeting of council, and first on our agenda will be the open forum, and each presenter will be given 5 minutes, and we will be strict tonight because it is a very tight agenda for us and we have lots of items. So normally we go a little longer, but not tonight. And the first item on the agenda would be Louise and Ross Pickett regarding the community standards bylaw.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor, fellow Senate Council, and directors. My name is Louise Pickett, and I have behind me now 15 years of sitting down on it. I'm here to bring to your attention my repeated concerns on the community standards bylaw. This is by no means my first time, as I have used various formats to bring my concerns forward. Spoken at farmers markets, direct conversation, and if you recall, when you all were first elected, I did a complete presentation, all with a portfolio of pictures. Well, there has been improvement, somewhat. Sadly, many concerns remain. While bylaw, like I said, there has been a headway made, there is much more that can be done. The bylaw officers need to have some reasonableness of proactiveness in their daily work. To drive by repeatedly on and see very obvious eyesores serves no purpose. And to continually bring forth concerns serves no purpose either. It becomes very frustrating, very time consuming, and it doesn't improve what our city can become and should be. In my walks, I repeatedly see areas of concern, and I worked very hard with Director Pichet on concerns last year, 2020, that actually brought about the mapping system, various problem areas. Unfortunately, this did not work. This year, within weeks, grass is this tall. It wasn't being used, so I'm not sure what the purpose of that was. Okay. Many areas became eyesores again, grass grew up to 18 inches, and complaints had to be filed again. And repeated throughout summer. I have some suggestions. We are approaching an election. Many of you voiced these concerns when you were wanting to be elected last time on bylaws. Now is the chance to shine. Reduce the requirement from 8 inches to 6 inches for grass length. We were just away for 2 weeks. Our grass is watered several times a week. We have good grass. It didn't grow very much. Even in the summer, it wouldn't grow into 6 inches. Black grass and weeds grow prolifically. Shorten the time for repeat offenders. Keep hearing this over and over again, and it doesn't seem to happen. And increase those fines. Let's get on the road with this. Because the repeat ones, unless they're hit hard, they're not going to take this seriously, and they have. Why are the weeds not addressed in the bylaw? Grass is to be cut by 8 inches tall. The weeds can go up to 18 to well over 2 feet. Not addressed. Sow thistle, red root pigweed, etc., etc. These weeds do not stay in the yard that they started. I'm sorry, I forgot my weed at home on my table that I pulled out of my yard, and it's not my weed. is south of.
I'm going to give you a warning, Louise, you got 2 minutes.
Okay. Prohibited noxious need to be addressed. Why is Himalayan balsam just taken out on one side and allowed to grow everywhere else in the yard and enjoy the yards? Look at the Weed Act. It's not to be put in the green bin. Hire a half-time bylaws officer from March to April or to October to assist. These two can't do it after years of the bylaw enforcement that we've had. I'm not going to go into that, you know that. Why are dilapidated fences and buildings allowed to make it fake? It says needs to be painted, removed, get it done. What about dandelion? I can't do anything about them. That's something you need to address. Dilapidated vehicle, city sidewalks. We need to work together, council. The city is no better. Look at the alleys, look at the junk in the alleys. Some have remained since last year. I brought it up to Diana.
Louise, I'm sorry, I have to, you have your 5, you had 6.
I have a package here. I didn't get it for everybody, but I'll give it to you.
Great, thank you so much.
And you can see that the rest of council, and thanks for hearing my concern.
Thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Ross. Next on our agenda is elimination of plastic garbage bags. Joanne Vandergrift is our presenter. And again, you'll have 5 minutes. Can I say something? You don't look like Joanne.
I'm starting off. My name's Elko Vandergrift. I'm married to my wife Joanne, and Kathy Gordon-Ball, and we're here as citizens of Macomb. We are certainly incredibly grateful for what the city has done as far as making it a beautiful city, green spaces, places where we can really, really enjoy nature. The words here speak very strongly around the community being resilient, prosperous, and ensuring that this remains for years to come. Next slide, please. So we're here, perhaps an opportunity for you as council, as a city, to consider as it relates to actually grasping onto those words more fully. And for that, we want to say thanks again. I'll tag team to my wife, Joanne.
Reason why this is passionate for us is we watched a documentary called The Story of Plastic, and it basically talks about how plastic is not recycled. It's just very little of it actually is reused or anything. So we're just saying that we're motivated to make some changes, and we just think that our community get on that change as well. There are many reasons that single-use plastic grocery bags should be eliminated, but we want to focus on the last 2 bullets. First of all, it aids the grocery corporations to their plans to eliminate plastic bags, and then the message to choose well has meaning to the residents of the home. So choosing well means not just for your own health, but for the environment of everybody. This is Kathy. She's going to talk about what she's doing.
My name is Kathy Dornwell, and I'm just going to give you a personal story here. I was born in Macomb. I've spent most my childhood here, moved away. After 42 years, have moved back. And the reason why we moved back is my husband was undergoing cancer treatment, and we decided to move back to Macomb to simplify our lives and be closer to family. And I must say, Macomb has been a place of rest and healing for us. And we are just ever so grateful for this small city. The numerous nature walks that we have in the city have been appreciated by us, and they've given us the healing that we were looking for. And because we treasure the trails and the lakes so much, this spring, we went up with our grandsons, we cleaned up part of the trails, and we're just passionate about the green spaces that we have. And so one of the choices that we've made is to try to reduce the plastics that we use, hence the connection with Joanne and Elko. Just trying to do what we can to do that. So by coming here today, I wanted to communicate to you as the city council that my hope for the city council is to be intentional about the choices that you make as a council that impact and keep the health of this beautiful little city, and also that will impact.
So you have 1 minute left. If you had any further.
Okay, the 3 grocery stores that we have in Macomb have all stated at the corporate headquarters of how they would like to eliminate plastic. You've all been presented with these, this presentation already, so you can go back, but we believe that the people of Macomb can intentionally and thoughtfully make choices to help the corporations and to also build a better community and a greater community beyond Macomb. Thank you for giving us the time to do this.
Thank you. And I'll just take a moment to ask council, do you have any questions for either of our presenters tonight? Anybody?
These are other communities in Alberta that have also already eliminated plastic grocery bags.
Hey, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, Ross and Louise. Okay, so we will.
Is it possible? I wasn't aware that you needed to pre-register to present. I just have a short presentation because of a decision that's going to be made tonight. So
You would not be able to speak tonight. Unfortunately, if you'd pre-registered, we would have been able to accommodate, but unfortunately, no, we're on a very tight schedule tonight, so I'm sorry.
okay, so just for a suggestion, then when we have citizens that bring forth issues to council prior to a meeting where it would be. I mean, I was only contacted back by 2 council members, but I think it would be pretty apparent that I was willing to speak on it. So not everybody is aware of the inner workings of council, how, you know, your meetings are laid out, the agendas and the minutes and such.
Are we?
I would maybe would hurt to let people know, so.
Are we having presentations on the floor? Or is that committee? That is your regular council meeting?
That is regular council meeting. Legislative Coordinator Bella Bono, can you confirm that that is regular council meeting on October 4th?
For external agencies, yes.
So you would be able to speak at that time if you wish to do that on October 4th and present your arguments. And we would appreciate that.
I'm so sorry, I put that in to just the council member that I was to speak at that meeting.
No, you would contact CEO Gowdy or Ms. Ray.
That's right. You give, the city has contact information on the website. You give us a call and ask for CAO Gowdy. You'll be put through to me and we can register you to speak on October 4th.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Okay, so I would like to call the regular meeting for today, September 27th, to order. And the first item on the agenda is adoption of the agenda. And I think we have an addition. Go ahead,
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Alex. Yeah, I was wondering if we can make an addition to the agenda, request for decision just to talk about truth and reconciliation.
Thank you, Councilor Connick. Did you get that?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, and we will slate that in. Can we do this 5.5 or do you want to do it? 5.5 is good. Okay. That'll be 5.5. Okay, any other additions or deletions? Councilor Gibbs?
I'll move that we adopt the agenda as amended.
Thank you very much. Nothing else? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Approved. Then we'll move on to presentations. 3.1 Macomb Police Commission. I believe everybody's here. Perfect. You have the floor.
Thanks, council members. Corey Baker, Chair of the Police Commission, here to the budget. I understand that our submission should be in your packages. As I was reviewing this package, I'm just trying to get some details going. I noticed that there's just some discrepancy in the summary on the package. So when you're reviewing this on your own, what I'm hoping that you'll do is review the rationale and ignore our map. I will do a summary of the map for you today and go through it just kind of just to highlight the items in the actual budget itself. But just as we were going through what we're finding is we're having some difficulty with the consistent drawing numbers in from our reports, and it just wasn't working right. So I'll do a little bit of a summary as we go. As you look through this, the process for the commission this year was to just try to maintain the status quo. We've been feeling like over the last 2 years that we've succeeded in implementing some changes and working with admin to provide some budgeting and getting some financial results that are much improved is what we'd like to say. We're feeling pretty happy about our transfers to reserve and just being able to set ourselves up in a way that we are better, we're less reactive to the changes going on and we need to be a little bit more proactive with the things with the citizens' money. So just as you're taking a look at the budgets themselves, and what I might recommend, because you've got some shorter budgets, and then you've got on page 5, just kind of the 21 to 22 changes, which might be the easiest one to follow. We also have a 3-year forecast, which is part of the process. And then starting on page 9 of your package, you've got some details about 2020. But I think just to go along with my presentation, starting at page 5 is your best bet. So for 2022 on the revenue side, we're trying to continue to be quite realistic about our third-party sources of income. We're encouraging the chief to continue to look and seek for opportunities to take advantage of opportunities to generate third-party income. But we're trying to be fairly conservative in what we're anticipating to receive. So just to start, under our general services, we are anticipating an increase of about $40,000 between 2021 and 2022. And that reflects some increases in our community police officer monitoring systems. So in 2020, we serviced 4 external bodies and charged them fees to do their monitoring and their dispatch. In 2021, we're up to 7, so we've had some increases in that. In 2022, we hope to add another 2, but right now we budgeted for a $40,000 increase to reflect where we are. When you take a look at security clearances for revenues, we have left it the same, and our 2021 results support what we anticipate. And the series that been about that for next year. We did decide to decrease our revenue line for fines and restitutions. We're finding that with COVID, sometimes sewer tickets are being issued, fees are being issued, but not always collecting on them, and we have seen just some uncertainty in what portion of those tickets they're receiving. So we felt it would be wise to reduce our revenue anticipation there. And then you'll see that we've got a very large increase in our provincial grants. And what that's reflecting is there's going to be a redistribution of the 911 service center charge. That money is then going to the bigger service centers, but because of the way the police service is developed, radio system and responses, we're actually going to see $120,000 increase in our grants for that service this year. So that's and look, as we add all that up to about $100,000 increase in our anticipating. We will see an increase in some revenues for the alert grant for, we have seconded a member to the alert services. That increase will also be reflected in that. And we will see a small increase for revenues for the SRO officer grant just reflected actual. So that's where we are just on the revenue side. I might pause there just to see if there are any questions so far.
Anybody have any questions for Chair Gish? Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So previously, I think the province was taking an increased percentage per ticket. So then did they increase the funding of our municipal police service for policing for taking an increase in the percentage? Did that happen?
Not that we noticed. We definitely are seeing some differences in other areas, but no, our grant funding has been consistent from year to year.
So the difference in percentage what they're taking, we're not seeing that come back to the Darrell police.
Yeah, I don't think they're connecting those two numbers together.
That's.
I have a question for you, if you don't mind, Chair Gish. It's in regard to fine revenues. Again, I noticed that the budgeted amount is substantially higher than what you're looking at this year for revenues. Is there any changes going to be made to ensure you meet the budget?
So my understanding of how we collect our fine revenues through the government is as they collect them, they send the city the money as they receive from time to time. So when you're taking a look at the 2021 actuals, we're always several quarters behind on our receipts. I am definitely talking in generalizations. I'm not aware of the actual specifics of when that money gets paid. But when we created the budget, I think that's part of what we were trying to anticipate. It just seems that that income is so uncertain. Chief, I don't know if you want to just clarify my generalizations on just how that fine revenue comes to us.
Yeah, and you'll notice that we did drop our fine revenues by $65,000 because of some of the uncertainties. And also for a number of years, we weren't meeting that target. So between the changes and uncertainties, we tried to find the middle ground on what Jack forecast for those fine revenues and keep it realistic as far as our ability to achieve those revenues. We don't know what COVID is going to look like moving through the new year. Hopefully, it's behind us, but we did budget what we felt was in alignment with the increase in government percentage that they're taking on our revenues. Previous to the 2021 budget, the province was taking about 35%. We're currently seeing only 55% on any fine revenues. With those changes, those external changes and external factors, we're targeting that hopefully our projections are correct.
That's kind of nice. You do all the work and they take that amount of money.
And I'll try forward just to see what revenues. We definitely have, well, we have revenues increasing by $100,000. We are anticipating on the expense side that our costs are going to increase by $354,000. With that, we are anticipating wage increases, including benefits and the peripheral that goes with the wage, to be about $212,000. With the increase, that reflects only incremental seniority increases and whatever COLA that is required for non-member employees. We are not increasing any levels of staffing. So it's there. The one thing that the commission did authorize was a conversion of the organizational support NCO to a staff sergeant position. So that will be reflected as a $50,000 increase increase in cost of wages. So that would be the one thing that the commission did, that's increased wages, that wasn't just what's required under the collective bargaining units and city. You'll also see an increase in line 2.217, which is telephone and fax, about 10 grand. This year is the year that we get to replace 27 cell phones. So that's why we see an increase over last year, which we didn't have that expense. You're going to also see increases in lines 2.271 and 2.527. And what that is we need to replace the Alberta First Responder radio communication systems this year. So we're seeing an increase in the expense for that, about $40,000. And the other one I quoted was license and registrations, which then is part of the license monitoring the person. So we've seen an expense increase on that side, but then a corresponding increase. We are also increasing our transfers to reserves by about $70,000 over last year, which includes an increase of $15,000 for IT hardware and an increase of $40,000 towards an anticipated cost to keep up our systems for 911 so that we continue to qualify for the 911 grant. So we have again found that we really feel there's huge improvements in the whole transportation process. I think we feel a little bit more aware of where the reserves are going and what's being saved for, so that we're again finding that we're having fewer surprises, or we anticipate fewer surprises on the capital side of what it costs and that we're saving properly and adequately. So that gives you kind of a bit of a general, but what I thought I'd do, because our summary sheet was a little bit, it's not as useful as I would want it to be, is if you wanted to get your pencils, I just have a quick summary. We're up 100 in revenue, we're up expenses by about $350 some thousand dollars. So on the expense side, it's $212 for wages and benefits, $40,000 for ATREX radios, $10,000 for cell phone replacements, $12,000 increase in licenses and registration. One I didn't know was we did increase our line for professional services by $7,000. And what the commission has decided to do is we're quite excited about the key performance indicator work that's being done, and we'd like to be able to with our strategic plans so that we have a go-forward basis and a better way to make sure that we are actually. And next I have this $70,000 increase to capital replacement reserves, and there's also a $9,000 increase to admin services recovery. So it's about $360,000 in my quick summary there. But when you look at the budget number, it's about $257,000 increase to our assets. So again, as you're reviewing this, look at the actual number lines on our summary. But really, our cost per capita is at $260 for the 2023 budget.
Councilor Jacobson, you have a question?
Yeah, what was the reason for changing your office support NCO to
It has to do with progression in the service. It's a training commission, so it has authority, so it has nothing. So the position has some authority and is much more effective. So we had the person in place, but without the actual staff, their authority was what they achieved. Now in our organizational structure, their authority is.
Any other questions for Chair Gish? Chief. Right. Anything for Chief Field? you, Chief. Okay. I guess that's, do you have anything else?
No, I appreciate your time tonight. I apologize for our technical glitches. I am a little bit of a last-minute homework girl, so I found them later than it was trying to fix them for you.
Chief Hagan, did you have anything else to add?
And just in relation to some of the technical glitches, we were working practically on Friday with finance because some of the computer software wasn't doing the calculations that we would like to see, so we will re-engage with finance. If there's any changes to our proposal, make sure that the systems are in line with our numbers and make sure that they're.
Well, I'm sure when it comes time to budget time, you'll have all the glitches out of that, so. Councilor Ross?
Thank you, sorry, just one correction. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. What was the old percentage prior to the province increasing it? What was the percentage revenue per ticket? What was that? That would be 2020 and then to 2021. What was the percentage difference?
So in the 2021 budget went in, after that budget went in, the province increased the fine revenue allocation back then by 13%.
The province retained 13% more of what?
More than
right.
the previous, on our last fine calculation or revenue sheet that we received from the province, that finance receives every month. We're currently receiving 55% of fine revenue.
Right before it was 68 or 7.
So it does fluctuate a little bit, and I honestly don't know what all the rationale is for that.
Because indirectly, it's falling back upon the municipality.
Yeah. Definitely, it's part of our.
Yeah.
And but it's also part of why the service is trying to make sure that we're engaged in helping to have a revenue side to our budgets. And we're not looking at finding more people or, you know, that's not the source of revenue we're looking at, but we're looking at opportunities that are there that keep the risk low for us and but allow us to maximize what we've invested in the service to the benefit of the city.
No, my point is 13% is a significant part of the increase asked, which is not, you know, a dip on a normal circumstance with previous revenue. It's a significant part.
One other item you might be interested in that is of a similar note is that the province used to pay for lab work and DNA analysis that was conducted on behalf of the police forces and the RCMP, but has recently changed to require the municipality through the police force to pay for the services. So it's not as significant, I don't think, as the fines, but I think it's about $20,000 a year.
Yeah, and we had made after budget adjustment for that for 2021. So it's in our current budget, we haven't added any increase to that service fee, but it will be maybe additional $20,000 every year for costs that are being for the fact that these agencies or municipality that previously seen it or not.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much.
Very nice.
Very good.
Thank you.
Blue Hagen. Did it right, the change. Our next presenters are not here, I don't think. They're online.
Coordinator Bellabono, our next presenters in person or online.
We'll have Susan McDonald who's to attend in person. And I believe Lydia Nichols will be online. I don't see them on yet, or sorry, Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle.
She's on now, yes.
They are scheduled at 5:45. But in there,
So we're a little ahead of schedule.
so we probably could go to franchise fees item 5.2. I believe that would be achievable within that time.
Within the time frame. Okay, what we'll do then, we'll move on to 5.2 as we're on the request for decision, franchise fees. And Director Piche, you ready to present on that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. Yes, I am prepared to report on that. So tonight before council is a recommendation to change the rates of the franchise fees for both gas and electricity. When utility companies install the infrastructure for their service, there's often an agreement put in place where the municipality will receive a percentage of the distribution and transmission rates in exchange for the use of the right-of-way access. The Alberta Utilities Commission has capped the percentage of franchise fee rates to 35% for gas and 20% for electricity. The city's current rates are 27% for ATCO Gas and 17% for Fortis Electricity. At these rates, the city will receive approximately $1,082,972 in revenue from ATCO Gas and $1,406,027 in revenue from Fortis Alberta. Each year, administration reviews the rates amongst its municipal comparators and calculates a median rate. This year, the median rate being proposed for 2021 are 27.75% for gas and 17.13% for electricity. The table on the second and third page of the memo reflects these comparisons. The change in the rates will result in approximately an extra $30,083 for gas and $10,752 for electricity in additional revenue. The effect that this has on residents is an average annual increase of $5.03 for gas and $7.93 for electricity. Now that's annual increase. Administration is recommending that council sets the 2021 natural gas franchise fee rate at 27.75% and the 2021 electricity franchise fee rate at 17.13%. These are the median rates for the comparator municipalities. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Piche. Any questions regarding the franchises? Councillor Connick?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Johnson. So just remind me again, that revenue goes into general revenue? No, we haven't.
Yeah.
Franchise? Yeah.
It is general revenue, yes.
Anyone else regarding that? TAP? Oh, you saw it. Oh. I think most people in here know my feelings on that, but I think it's a TAP. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll just go ahead and make the recommended motion number one, that council set the 2022 natural gas franchise fee rate after gas for the city of Macomb at 27.75%.
Any further discussion on that item? No, I will call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? You see that, Coordinator Belville, that I voted against that?
Yes, I was just going to ask Deputy Mayor who voted against.
That was me.
Okay.
Actually, stay with Director Piche and
We need the other.
I'm sorry.
Motion.
Councillor Jacobson.
Councillor Jacobson.
I'm with the council, so 2022 electricity franchise fee rate Fortis Alberta for the city of Macomb at 17.13%.
Any further discussion on that item? No, I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Okay, well, we might as well move on to the next item then. We'll go on to 5.4 if that's okay. And that's key performance indicator update. You don't mind, Diane? Or
Not at all.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor, can you confirm if it was just yourself that opposed the last motion? I don't see the whole screen.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. This evening, I am introducing the key performance indicators for Project to Council. The key performance indicators are a means of evaluating the performance of an organization through measurements determined by legislation, policy, directives, standard operating procedures, or general practices. This project started late last year as one of Council's strategic goals. The city did hire Brenda Vaughn, who knows how the organization works very well, or operates very well, and has completed her master's in performance measurements in local government. For an organization to put KPIs into practice, guidelines should be followed, that organizational culture must shift to embrace a learn-as-you-go flexibility in the name of adjusting practice to achieve established service levels. Organizational capacity, the skills and abilities to incorporate the practice must be evident and supported. KPI frameworks must be precise. The practice is universal and created by those who are using them. And KPIs must measure operational processes and practices and not individual performance. It is found that the city is in a very good position to move forward with this project, as the managers and supervisors are very knowledgeable and committed practitioners within their portfolios. Senior management is very supportive of this project as well. Contractor Vaughn met with all the managers of each department and created an inventory of 47 KPIs throughout 22 departments. Each manager was asked to select 1 to 2 different areas where they currently track or collect information about their service level or their service that they provide. The data that the managers provided were then tracked back to either a legislation, a policy, a directive, or an operating standard that currently guides why their service is being provided. This collection of data and KPIs can start setting the city up with providing a baseline collection of current service levels. This measurement can also provide guidance to set policy within how successful within the performance measures of how successful the operations met the KPI. These performances do allow, I'm sorry, I just need 1 quick minute here. I apologize. I'm sorry, I just really lost my place there. So the way these performance measurements work is that there is a set of recommendations that are made. And basically the first thing we need is council endorsement. The way the council recognizes the completion of key performance indicators, strategic goal, and endorse the integration of a key performance measure is one of the key items of moving forward with this project. The key performance, the city administration develops KPI policy, directives and standards, and operating procedures as warranted by city procedural guidelines. We also will be implementing organizational key performance indicator selection. The corporate leadership team will determine the total number of key performance indicators to be introduced into phase 1. It is recommended that at least one key performance indicator from each functional area is selected, and this will provide an organizational wide point of view. The final selection of key performance indicators, managers will work with their directors to select the KPIs to be introduced into phase 1 of the project. Efforts are establish a wide swath of measures, will provide a holistic look into the organization. And service levels, a lot of these KPIs can be created and formalized into our service levels. The current practice is not always formally documented, but these have been noted within the inventory of the documents in bold font, which will combine the existing formalized service level. The city will have a baseline collection of the current service levels, which will provide a starting point to review or consider. And this information would be highly instructive as the city moves forward with the performance measure process. The strategic goal of this denotes that the future some of the strategic goals denote future states that are incongruent with current day circumstances, and they have been noted in the red font in the report, and the desire to retain the goal may exist. However, aggressive long-term implementation planning and policy change would be required, and these are identified simply as a reminder to revisit the goals. Any of the selected KPIs will then be introduced into a business planning and budget planning document and process. Again, methods to collect and centralize this data will be stored and it will be completed. And then reporting of this data will be coordinated with the annual review report. In addition, the updated format and online presentation to provide an opportunity for KPIs reporting to occur throughout the year based on business activities, seasonality, or timing. The long-term implementation of it, a multi-year plan outlining selected KPIs and the rate at which they will come on stream will be created. The recommendation would be suggested to do a 1, 3, and 5-year intervals. Formalizing the organizational support, so the integration of KPIs into the organization practices consistent, knowledgeable attention, and ongoing fine-tuning. While experts in their fields and willing data collectors, managers will not necessarily have organizational-wide view, but ongoing management and use of the reporting KPIs will benefit from a dedicated oversight. So I know it's not in public forum, but there is added a report that depicts all of the inventory and the departments that were interviewed by contractor Vaughn. Each department did go through all of their measurements that they collect data on, and that's on page 10 of the report, and it moves forward into all the way to page 151. So I know that this is quite a large report. It does have a lot of information in it, and the way it works out is that each department has identified various measurements, but then towards the end, there's an actual table of what the strategic outcome plan was, and then various measurements that they're looking at, and then the efficiency indicators of how they measure within that department and how effective they are based on a percentage. And then the target level and service of that looks at how that information is gathered. Currently, I'm just looking at the finance one, and it's through like annual property taxes, or how many the percentage of citizens that indicate within a satisfactory survey how they value their tax dollar and such. Then there's some analysis that occurs with that, and then how often the data collection is done, the frequency of the data collection. And then where the data is coming from. What is that data source? Is it coming from a survey? Is it coming from our reporting structure through our finance? Or is it coming from something from the province, say the CPIs or something like that? So if there are any questions at this time, I am happy to take that.
Thank you, Director PJ. Any questions? Director, yes, Councilor Hoopstra.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I guess maybe it's because of the size of the report, but I'm a little bit concerned about, is this going to be adding more work than, like will it produce the result we want, considering how much work it's going to take to complete these KPIs?
Director PJ.
So one of the things with this project that we started out with, we did ask that all departments look at their low-hanging fruit. So what are they currently collecting now? I know, like with our bylaw enforcement, we currently keep stats on the number of violations that we have. So we're already collecting that information, and what we're asking of all the other departments is the same sort of things, like what are they already collecting? So it shouldn't be an additional amount of work. It should be stuff that they're already doing right now. And then that is what we want to start doing the reporting on.
So thank you for that question. That's the big concern that we have as well. And so we have structured this first phase to look at the existing data. And so Director Piché said no additional work. We are compiling the data that's already been collected in different departments into a more consolidated format, so we can look at that on a month-by-month or quarterly basis.
Councilor Koenig.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. And yeah, as it says here, they're only doing one KPI for functional area. I know they came to the police commission, Ms. Vaughn did the presentation for us as well. And we've already identified, or the chief of the commission already identified the one KPI they want to work on. So if you're right, if there were multiple KPIs, I think it'd be a lot. But it's just the one that every department is being asked to start with. And as well, the question I had asked the police commission was, is that Director Piché had mentioned too, it will actually take a few years to get a really good idea, because it's going to take a little bit just to get that data, right? Yeah, you can pull some data from previous years, but it's really going to take, I think it'll take about 2 years. Would you say, Director Piché, before we have a really good idea how we're
Yeah. Yes, it really, there's a sort of a 1, a 3, and a 5-year scope that we would look at, sort of a quick turnaround, a mid one, and then a long term. Some of the items will only be annual reporting. Some of them might end up being monthly reporting. Like if we look at, say, some of our water tests, for example, we probably have to do some of those more often than what we would normally do. Snow removal, for that matter. That's going to be an annual review of snow removal, because we'll look at that at a one time at the end of the year. How many times did we meet our like snow clearing cycle? So if that would be one of the reporting factors there. So that's an annual one that we would look at. So we wouldn't be able to report on that as often as, or even like say for bylaw for dogs at large. We could do that almost monthly for that matter, because we report on that anyways. But the 1 year mark, we'd be able to get those individual items that we would report on like on a monthly basis. Whereas the 3-year, maybe the biannually, and then the 5-year more as an annual one.
So I have a question, Director Piche. How will this coordinate with our strategic plan? Will some of this information be useful with that, right?
Absolutely. So a lot of the defining documents that come out of the strategic plan, that's what sets up a lot of the work processes that we do. And so we would be able to report on that if that was one of the KPIs that we would want to hit on, say on a through the CAO's office or something. How many do we meet? How many indicators do we meet of the strategic plan? We could look at that on a yearly basis.
So that is one of the reasons that we haven't finalized the KPIs that we are collecting, because we do want to target council's strategic plan to align with it if that data is available. So we think the time actually worked out quite well for bringing this to you as we move into a new strategic planning session with many of you, I'm sure. We can make sure that there is alignment between what we're collecting and reporting and what council is looking to achieve.
So there is a motion done. Councillor Connell?
Looks like there's a couple. I'll do the first one. The council receives a draft KPI report.
Okay, is that,
Or do you want to lump it together then?
what are we looking for here tonight? Is that the one?
There would be that one, and then there's a following motion. The council recognizes the completion of KPI indicators. That make sure we integrate that into our future work. That's what we ask.
Okay. Good. So we have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion regarding that motion? No? Okay, all those in favor? It's unanimous. Councillor Hibbs?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gulson. I will move that council recognize the completion of the key performance indicators, that strategic goals, and endorses integrating key performance measures processes with administration.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right, thank you, Director Piche. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
We'll move back to our presentations. I think we're ready to go there. On these, I see we have Ms. McDonald with us now. Thank you for being here. And we're right on, we're supposed to be on time, which is nice. Thank you. And Chair Meyer is with us also.
Hello.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Susan.
So you're both going to present together, I assume. Is that correct? Or are you going to present here, Susan?
We're going to have a hybrid version.
Hybrid version. Okay. I'll turn the floor over to you, and you can decide which direction you want to go.
Perfect. Thank you. So thank you for having us. I hope you have had a chance to review our 2021 report and our proposed 2022 FCSS budget. Susan and I will refer to the document throughout our presentation. So the front cover of the presentation really tells our story. So Macomb District FCSS continues to support our community in so many ways. So we hope to share some of those experiences over the last year with you this evening. You can go to the next slide, please. Perfect, thanks. As a board and staff, we're proud to say we stay true to both our vision and our mission statement, as well as our values. So we remain focused on enhancing the social well-being of individuals, families, and our community through prevention. So like city services, Macomb FCSS has adapted to our ever-changing environment, and we've been resilient in meeting community needs. So our preventative programs and services are needed more than ever, especially over the last year or 18 months. Research has shown that for every dollar invested in preventative services, $7 to $12 in future spending is saved. Over the past year, 9,447 participants benefited from our 39 programs in FCSS. We've had 262 volunteers, which have contributed an enormous total of 13,651 volunteer hours. It's impressive, the volunteers we have in this community. We are known as the go-to place for information and help. Our front desk answers an average of 792 inquiries each month, and FCSS is deemed as an essential service by the province. So we've remained open throughout the pandemic to assist residents impacted by COVID-19. You can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm pleased to report in 2021, our board staff have taken a very active role in our 2018 to 2021 strategic plan. Priorities were established, service delivery responded to changing needs, and it resulted in a lot of positive outcomes. So I'll share some of those with you. So under effective governance, we were able to sustain FCSS operating funds from the city, the county, and the province. We were able to access many new COVID-19 grants to support our COVID-19 response, which has been very strong. Internally, we've developed an OH&S plan with the support of an outside organization, created a FOIP policy. We also took a huge undertaking this year by updating our employee policy manual from start to finish. We accessed the critical worker benefit for eligible employees. We created some succession plans and continue those conversations for senior staff retirement ongoing, and generous community donors continue to support our programs and services. Under effective communication, we have really made sure that everyone knows FCSS is here to help, especially in the last year. And we've promoted that through all of our social media. You've seen boards around town, posters, everything like that. We've promoted wellness kits as part of our mental health and addictions project at the farmers market. There was face painting. There was often, I've seen a few of you at the farmers market. There was often lineups, lots of families accessing those resources. Daily phone calls and emails have definitely increased. Our social media continues to, Facebook averages over 600 people. Our frozen Meals on Wheels alone reached almost 1,750 people, which is pretty impressive. And Twitter averages about 378 people per post. We participate in many virtual meetings with community partners, and the board and council have communicated on the social master plan. And then effective service delivery. So we've had some new partnerships to respond to community needs, including a dementia-friendly project, laptops for adult students. We continue to collaborate and connect across the community, and we've adapted our programs and services. So for example, frozen Meals on Wheels instead of Hot Wheels during COVID, income tax by drop-off instead of coming in. So there's that contactless assistance. Seniors Week, Cozy Corner, and FCSS delivery of strawberry shortcake to the local seniors, which was a huge hit this past year, and Santa's Anonymous curbside pickup. Some of our new initiatives included our Seniors NAV Care program, our Mental Health and Addictions project, and a Summer Art in the Park for Youth program. And working with the City of Macomb, this is great too, the Community Garden program has expanded to 60 slots in 2 locations. And if you've driven by, as I have many times, there is a lot of great growers in the city as well. Our current FCSS strategic plan takes us from 2018 to 2021. Our board of directors recently reviewed the existing plan with some recommendations to update our plan in 2022. The board feels it's very important to do an update of our strategic plan. We've experienced many changes over the last 3 years as we transition some new senior staff. And in the addition of a lot of new board members, the strategic plan is key to provide future direction. Before I pass it over to Susan, I want to congratulate Susan as she has officially given her resignation and is moving towards retirement. So we just want to make a note that this is Susan's last ever draft budget presentation, and she has worked very hard at it. And loves the budget so much. So I will turn it over to her with a big thank you for all of her hard work on the budget. And she will share a bit more detail about our 2021 year, as well as a preview of 2022 and our budget overview. So thank you. Go ahead, Susan.
Thanks, Michelle. So yes, on to the next page, please. Big 2021 challenges and opportunities. Few highlights. So as Michelle mentioned, FCSS, we remained open during COVID. We've certainly adapted our programs and services to meet the COVID-19 needs and AHS protocols, etc. that continues to be a high priority for us. We've had to cancel some programs, mainly special events due to COVID, things like the community dinners, our family day and celebrate home day events, and some activities during seniors week. We've had some reduction in volunteers because of COVID. New partnerships, as Michelle mentioned, dementia-friendly community collaboration team provides support to area clients and has developed a community awareness program. Now closed, so this year we were the recipients of the Chairs for Charity project, which raised $5,340 for our food program in September. ME Global engaged in an employee backpack drive for a tools program. Laptops for Learning provides adult students with refurbished laptops through the Alberta Computers for School program. We have an agreement with Central Alberta Sexual Assault Support Center to provide a safe office space at Macomb Fcss for folks to access the counselor via Wi-Fi and a laptop. COVID-19 funding, we're able to access a number of grants that helped with through United Way. We were able to help support our Frozen Meals on Wheels program, connects transportation tools for school, our PPE supplies, crisis support, seniors iPads, and lifeline installations. New Horizons for Seniors is another new grant, or we're able to provide some seminars for seniors, iPads for seniors, Seniors Activity Fund, which we call PALS, to enable seniors to access local recreational activities. Connects and Frozen Meals on Wheels as well. Another project was our Mental Health and Addictions project, another grant. So that was a one-year program that just ended in September. We did a lot of mental health community awareness and created new partnerships and support programs for all. The Community Initiatives Program, the SIP program, that's a 3-year grant that we received. So we're actually in year 2 and then we extend on to 2022. So we'll continue to work on that program. Some things we had to kind of adjust or defer till later just because of COVID. So something that we'll continue to monitor the NADCARE program, which is a volunteer program to assist seniors in the home. Aging Well seminars, mental health first aid for seniors, for our staff. We're able to complete that. Compass for the caregiver and opening minds through our program. The SIP grant also provided some organizational funding for us to do an occupational health and safety program, which is a contract that we did, and it's about 90% complete. And then next year we'll work on the implementation. And then we're looking forward to building a communication plan for Fcss in 2020. So on to the next slide. Okay, 2022 preview. So some projects that we have on the go for next year. Of course, we want to review and update the Fcss strategic plan, maintain our resources, provide a high level of social service supports to the community, transition of new senior staff members, respond and manage our community needs in response to COVID, of course, mental health and addictions. Looking next year, we'll look into a new project through Canadian Mental Health Rural Animators Program. Our SIP grant projects, we've got a few things to complete there. Again, complete our New Horizons projects, explore our plan for agencies to really needs, complete an Fcss operation and use both the programs and administration. And we'll be going into year 9 of our community grant program. And as always, we'll work with the city on the regional emergency social services plan. So moving on to the budget, big picture. You folks have seen this graph before, so I'll run through it. So our budget is sometimes it can seem very complicated. Basically, there's 3 sections to it. The Fcss eligible funded programs. So that's the part that supports what we do through the Fcss offices, a lot of our staff. So planning and admin, senior services, home support, volunteer community development, youth development coordinator, and our community outreach program. So that's the main focus area of our Fcss agency and the programs we offer. The next section is our FCSS eligible non-funded programs. So that's our 5 FCSS and our Lifeline program. The next section is non-FCSS, non-eligible funded programs. So the things that we do mainly through donations and community sports, so our community supports, things like Caring for Children Fund, our Phillip Bridge, the next transportation through the city, our benevolent fund, our SIP grant, and the 5 fund. So in total, our budget is a little over $1 million. And down the bottom shows our revenue sources, so it's provincial and federal grants, provincial contracts, city of home, county of home, fees for service, donations, and funding. Next, our 2022 FCSS funding request. So this is a piece that really fits in with the city's budget. So the funding of our FCSS program begins with the provincial funding agreement, which is an 80-20 partnership between the province and the municipality, so the city of Macomb. Our FCSS agreement with the city is a 3-year contract or a 3-year agreement, and it currently stands at just under $400,000, so 397, 393. So in that graph, the big blue section is the 317,914. That's 80% from the province. The city has to contribute 20%, which is at 79,479, and then we are asking the city additional 52,520 to help support our FCSS operations. And the 2022 City of Macomb additional offer request is an increase of 10% from 2021. So we're recommending a total municipal contribution of $132,000 for FCSS operations. And as Michelle chatted earlier in regards to our FCSS strategic plan, we feel that we need to update the plan, not just it needs a more in-depth review. And we're hoping to do some of this in-house or with the local resources, but we still feel we need some funding to help with that. So we're asking for additional $10,000 to help support development of our FCSS strategic plan. Our FCSS community families. So this program started in 2014. The city and the graph illustrates. So we've had in 2021 projects included volunteer link, lifelong learning for 2 projects, Youth Unlimited for 2 projects, and also Big Brothers Big Sisters. So in total, we gave out $31,500. The community request that came in, so a little $57,650. And so for 2022, we're recommending that we recommend that we continue with the same budget amount at $35,000. And then budget notes, moving on. So just some highlights here. So each budget area has been worked on line by line. Draft budget is based on our 2021 FCSS provincial and municipal funding formula. The FCSS eligible funded programs, that's 80% for province, municipal minimum, 20% from the city. And we are asking for an additional 52,522. Village applied, their grant their agreement will remain the same, and they also contribute additional funds towards their FCSS program. We're asking the city for additional $10,000 for the FCSS strategic plan. We have a 1% wage increase included in our budget. $2 monthly service fee added on to producer fee programs such as Meals on Wheels, Lifeline, and home supports. FCSS community grant going into year 9. The overall 2022 agency budget compared to 2021 is reduced by $10,820. That's both the expenditure and the revenue side. our FCSS eligible funded budget. So we have a deficit budget of 32,106. Shortfall will be covered off by unrestricted reserves, and the board will pay strong reviews from attention to making sure that this doesn't come to recurrence throughout the year. Okay, so our FCSS budget does not include the community grant budget or the additional funding for the plant. Those are extra. On the FCSS eligible non-funded side, we're showing a deficit of 1,170 and lifeline 1065. So both of those will be covered off by reserves. And the non-FCSS eligible non-funded is the balance budget. All the details are provided in the attached budget. Before I move on to CNAPs, any questions on the FCSS?
Thank you. Coordinator McDonald, Director. Any questions for Susan or Chair Meyer? CEO Gowdy?
Perhaps I'm missing it. Could you just remind us of your 2021 funding request? What was your 2021 funding request?
It would have been
Or did I find that?
on the operational side of things. I believe it was 120,000.
120
And it's increased by 12,000.
plus 10,000. So from 120 last year, 142, that was the total request this year. 132.
Plus 10.
142, plus 35 for the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any other questions before we move on to the next portion of this presentation? Okay. All right, continue, please.
Okay, so on to CNAPs. On behalf of the Connect team, I would like to share some highlights of this valued service in our community. Throughout the pandemic, Connect has contributed to providing essential transportation and services to the residents of the city and Macomb County. This year, more programs and businesses remain open, allowing Connect to operate as usual. We continue to follow safe work practices and AHS guidelines. Medical and grocery trips have increased significantly, as well as general ridership. We offer free vaccine trips funded by COVID grants. The dialysis bus is now full at the capacity of 10 patients. Royal Oak is using Connect for weekly outings, often at full capacity. New this fall, we're providing weekly transportation to the Ellisburg Farm for a dementia group. Buses are kept in tip-top shape by the city maintenance department, and there has been no major repairs needed this year. In December coming up, Connect drivers will participate in a commercial driver course offered by the city of Macomb. We track the bus usage for a 4-week period this spring for city administration. Connect drivers are often met with unpleasant comments and gestures from other drivers who do not understand our reasons for driving below the speed limit to ensure the most comfort possible for frail or wheelchair clients. So to help to rectify this situation, we're in the process of getting caution stickers made up that will say caution, slow moving vehicles when loaded, stay back 3 meters. And kind of an ongoing mission, so we'll try that to get that out with that. Okay, so moving on, so that gives you kind of a snap preview of what our operational stats look like. And just a comment from one, maybe go back one. There we go. Stay there. So yeah, just highlighting all the different services that we provide and the partnerships that we have. Like FCSS, we have many partners, the City of Macomb, Macomb County, Macomb Health Trust, Macomb Co-op, Sobeys, Vesta Energy, Remax Realty. So it takes many partners and sponsors to make the operation process best. So moving on to the budget, the next page. So we have a comparison there, our 21 to 22 budget. So our expenditures, slight increase for 2022, a little over $4,000. And how we collect our fees, our user fees, the Home Health Trust, corporate donations, the Macomb County, and the City of Macomb, of course, is the main funder of this program. So we're asking the city for 96,000, a little over 96,000 to operate in 2022. For 2021, a comment on our revenue for the current year. So we're able to access a number of grants to assist with groceries and frozen meals on meals delivery. From United Way, we're able to access $2,500 and New Horizon $2,750. And just note at the end of our year 2020, so we did our audit in March this year, we had a surplus of $9,825, which was returned to the city of Macomb in March. That's kind of a first. It hasn't happened in a long time, so it's nice to be able to do that. So our request for 2022 for connects from the city is $96,021. Yes.
Susan, any questions regarding Connects? Councillor Khan.
Nothing to do with Connects. I just wanted to back up a little bit to the other budget. I noticed there's nothing, no revenue being generated via fundraising. Naturally, of course, it's pretty hard to fundraise in the times that we're in right now. It's my hope that eventually, should things get back to normal, maybe FCSS can undertake to do some fundraising. Of course, the Sip and Savor events they did work. I know there were a lot of work to do to run them, but they did generate some revenue. So hopefully you guys can get back to that at some point. I also wanted to just express my thanks to you, Susan. I know when I was first elected, I sat on FCSS and you were not the director, but we did, if I'm not mistaken, I was there when we got you aboard. So I know you've been there for a little while, and I want to thank you for all your years of service. Your successor certainly has some shoes to fill. Good luck, Chair Meyer, on your hunt for a new executive director. But I want to thank you for years of service.
Yeah, I've been, well, I came for 5 and I stayed for 10. So it's time to move on. I certainly appreciate all the support and help from the city, both from administration, from council, and from the councillors that have sat on our FCSS board. Very supportive and helpful. So yeah, without the city, FCSS wouldn't be able to do what all the different services. I've been fortunate to work with a great staff and board and council. So thank you.
I'd also like to express my thanks to you, Susan. Personally, we worked together on Rotary, if you're aware of that. And you're extremely hardworking, and certainly the CSS will miss you in the future. Thank you very much on behalf of all council for your service to the community in general. Any other comments regarding the presentation? No? Oh, Councillor Ross?
Yeah, currently my term of council was on FCSS, and if we went back in the 10 years, we were, I'm looking at the numbers, we were in a deficit position prior to you becoming part of FCSS, and our reserve now is very healthy, very positively reviewed by Roland Park Associates annualized through our audit. So FCSS, Susan is leaving FCSS in a very healthy position. So that needs to be reflected with be acknowledged for that for 10 years of positive contributions to the reserves. So it was great for my 4 years, and best wishes for your retirement.
Chair Meyer, do you have anything else to add to the presentation?
I don't think so. I think Susan covered it quite well. Yeah, we've gone through it as a board quite a few times. We've discussed a lot about a plan in 2022 to deal with a deficit, to make sure that we're not continually having this year after year. We recognize that it's been a difficult 18 months. We all know this, but that's not a trend that we'd like to see. Susan has done, Councillor Ross is correct. She's done a fantastic job in building up reserves and in getting FCSS to a place where we're quite sustainable, and we want to make sure that that continues. And so it is really important to myself, to the board, to make sure that we sit down and really tackle looking at our operations on the inside, looking at our programs, taking a hard look at everything, and making sure that we're continuing on that hard work and that legacy to make sure that we're not in this position moving forward. So we definitely recognize that.
Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. Sorry, I should have asked this a bit sooner. It was noted that medical trips had increased significantly. Is that something like an anomaly, or are you expecting that to sort of be a trend that continues into the future?
Yeah, with Connect's medical. Part of it might be, volunteers or not having people to take family members to medical appointments. So the Connect's ones have increased, and certainly with dialysis, there seems to be more patients, so we've increased that. And then we promoted our service a lot more during COVID to make sure that people are able to get regular visits.
So if there's nothing else, I'd like to thank both of you for presenting tonight. It was very informative, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I recommend. It was in the lobby, weren't they? Not Heritage Resource. It's that. The message on the screen already that somebody was in the lobby.
Yeah, that's for the monitoring.
That was Christina.
Oh, sorry.
Well, our next presenters are not here at the moment. I believe they're supposed to be here in person. Yeah. So, okay, if we can try, can we fit it in? Okay. So we'll move on to 5.3 then. Facilities operational cost sharing agreement.
Last year, the city council adopted the facilities operational cost sharing agreement. Following that adoption, the ICF IDP committee met, reviewed a framework for joint consideration of significant projects that might provide shared services within the county and the city, and in which there's an expectation of shared funding. They have recommended the inclusion of this community group's facility capital and operating funding request process and framework within the facilities operational cost sharing agreement. Essentially, the process is as such: 4 projects of significance, so generally we've got a threshold of 500. The committee has recommended a threshold of $500,000 of capital costs for an ongoing operational cost of $75,000 or more. When such a project is proposed from a community group, Macomb County and the city of Macomb would convene essentially a committee meeting, consisting of the committee of the whole of both councils, or as near as is practically available, to receive the request. At that meeting, it's a committee meeting, and so there is the opportunity for asking questions and debating. No motions. Following that, the city council and county councils will have an opportunity to individually debate, whether that be in camera or in public, after which there is one more opportunity for the joint meeting of the 2 committees of the whole to make a shared recommendation to effective council. We do expect there to be some learning curves as we go through the process, and so we have also actually recommended to test out the process on a recently considered project Macomb Athletic Park Association expansion. So it's a little bit awkward just because we did receive their presentation already and it is in our 10-year capital plan, but because of the significance, the committee felt it was worth taking that project through this process. Get it before. So there are two motions tonight. First, to approve the updated agreement, the program directors described. Then second, for myself to work with CAO Timmins from the county to schedule the joint public hearing.
Councillor Hibbs.
Just to get the ball started, I will go ahead and make that first motion if that's okay. It's that council approve the updated facilities operational cost sharing agreement as presented.
Thank you very much. Councillor Koenig.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. So is this framework apply as far as the referral is concerned? No, because we're.
It is only intended to apply for community initiated projects. So not something that would be required to continue an existing service provision between the two.
Okay.
Any other questions before we move to address the motion? Oh, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Why did it feel like this is a duplicate though? Like, is this another layer of the agreement we have with the county? Like, how is, do you know what I mean? Right? I don't know.
It's just a new section. So we had this agreement before, the majority, 90% of the agreement that you're seeing there has already been passed and endorsed by.
Okay.
What came out through our meetings with the county was that there was a desire for more formal and concurrent consideration framework between the two municipalities. And so this was added, or has been proposed to be added. But you have seen the majority of it.
Councillor Hibbs.
Yeah, I was just going to point that out, that if you look, you might be able to see the little red number, the numbering. I think that's actually the only section that was kind of added in. But yeah, this was an idea that rather than having groups sort of having to do two different presentations, and not to say that necessarily groups would be doing this, but where different information could be presented to either, or one could be using leverage for the other, et cetera, et cetera. I guess one question that I would just ask council when seeking this endorsement is if they are in favor of the criteria, like, or sorry, of the trigger, I guess, dollar value. So if you think that it is fair that it's 500,000 or for capital or 75,000 for operational. I guess I just wanted to draw special attention to those numbers because it was a bit difficult to set that because you don't want to set it too high, but you also don't want to set it too low that it's triggering everything either. So I guess before we go ahead and accept it, just to give that kind of an extra moment for pause.
Good. Anything else, buddy? No, we do have a motion on the floor. That's the first motion. Everybody familiar with the motion? It's been a few minutes. Want to reread? Coordinator Bellbone, can you read that back, please?
The motion on the floor is that council approve the updated facilities operational cost sharing agreement as presented.
Thank you very much. No further questions? All those in favor? Unanimous? Councilor Koenig.
Deputy Mayor Gullickson will make the second motion to direct CO to work with the county manager to schedule a joint public meeting for the purpose of receiving the presentation and funding requests from the Macomb Athletic.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you. Our next presenter is not here yet. Like we're ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
You want to go to 5.5?
That's going to be a lengthier discussion than the simple ones.
5.5, do you think?
Oh, I'm sorry, that was.
It's a different, yeah, it's the
I'm
one
sorry.
that he brought forward.
At that, yeah, sorry.
Are you, do you want 5.5?
Like do a council report or CAO report or?
We'll probably have time for that. Maybe not. Well,
We literally have 3 minutes.
probably. I could do my report.
Me too.
Yeah, won't take very long. Okay, let's, we have a few minutes until our next presenter comes up. I'll do my report. Mine's a verbal one. It's very simple. I spent, well, I shouldn't say I spent 3 days at the Harvest and Cultural Festival. I was out there all 3 days at some point. And I must say I was disappointed in the attendance. Some of the activities were very good, but it was very repetitious. And unfortunately, I don't believe the advertising was great. So the crowds were very low. The Indigenous dancing for the closing they were excellent. And the woodworking display was good, and the tractor pull was good. It seemed to be really low key in comparison to other years. And I'm not sure the reasoning behind that, but I did enjoy it. The time I was there, it just was poorly attended. I was sorry to see that. And that's the only thing I have to report. And Councilor Roth.
I just do a verbal one, and I'll, on the coastal tourism, it was on social media, I will agree, it was last minute changed somewhat because of protocols brought in, having to set up more security and so forth, so I will agree, probably the advertising could have been better, but it was, I did see it on social media, but with that in mind, Open Harvest kind of gathers the different demographics. So I think it could have been better. I agree with you in that way. So obviously, I'm part of Fcss. We went through the budgets and a regional airport meeting as well. The improvements have been quite significant this year with the airport. Paula Law is no longer on the committee. She is resigning from the county. So she was actually an excellent member, and in the last 4 years has been a considerable improvement on the agreement between the city and the county. So that was in part in the past 4 years, Paula and the county. So I think there's good progress and lots of construction at the airport. So yeah, that would be my report. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see our presenter is here for the next presentation. Floor is yours.
Sit here, you want me to go there?
Up to the podium would be nice. Thank you, Peter. Appreciate that. Peter Bosma is going to vent for the Heritage Resources Committee. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for taking time to see me and see us today. You've had, I'm sure, a chance to read a few pages of stuff regarding the Heritage Resources Committee. You're probably fully aware that in 2020 there was not a phenomenal amount of stuff done as we kind of had to reset things, and realizing that there's definitely opportunity to meet via Microsoft Teams. We met already 7 times, which one time was actually in person, and the next 2 meetings that were planned for this year yet will be held virtually and through Microsoft Teams. The committee's been around for a while. It's been probably 2008 is when I joined. I was asked by the manager of planning development staff at the time, Carolyn Gilchrist, to join in the committee. I'm pretty sure it was 2008, it wasn't 2008, it was 2009, whatever the case. So the committee's been around for 12 or 13 years. And it was changed from the steering committee to the Heritage Resource Committee as it is today. You've seen the work that the committee has done over the last number of years. And we know that in 2021, this year, a lot more work has been done in the last little while than it has been in a few other years. Partly because we're taking actually an initiative to do our own promotion, connect with building owners that are in Macomb that are already on the places of interest list. I think it's going well. The letter just went out very recently, so I am in the process of connecting with each one of the people that own these buildings, but we've already received a bit of an indication from one of them that she's interested in having her building considered to be for municipal resource designation for the city. So that's pretty exciting. As you can see, the Flatiron building is a one of the two there. And with the owner there, we've had a conversation with him, and the process has started in the end of October. We're actually visiting the site to confirm the statement of significance of the building, after which it will be going to council, obviously to the new council, and hopefully within the next, let's say 3 months, 3.5 months from now, we will be able to indicate that is our 7th building within the city of Macomb that will have that municipal historic resource designation. So part of the budget, of course, as you can see there, in order for this to happen, as well as the second one that we're expecting will be $4,800. We were given $4,250 total last year for operating, of which we only spent barely $1,000. There's potential for some professional development coming up, but that's a minor amount that might be upward of $200, but that would be it. So there will be a fair amount of money going back to the city as part of their surplus for 2021. We promote ourselves also through the Facebook page, as you can see in that report. Photo number 12 was taken before the Untitled Foundation took over, but that is one of the more beautiful intact ceilings within the city of Macomb. And what we're trying to do within the Facebook page is trying to make heritage a simple thing to understand and promote within our community to the general public. And I think it's overall, it's going quite well. We have over 1,200 followers, 1,300 followers in the program here, just about 1,300 followers. So we're really excited about that. Photo number 3 is the CIBC Center. That little image that you see there is that it's called an ionic capital or column. So it's a word that you should use every day. We did encourage, though, for people on Facebook who follow the page, is to go around Macomb and see some of the beautiful ceilings that are in place still. And one of the more intact ones is, I'm sure most of you haven't seen it, is the second floor of the Macomb, where it used to be an opera house. It still has a lot of the original finishes inside there, including an absolutely beautiful ceiling, super high baseboards. It's a gem. If it was just fixed up, it would be an amazing space. So anyway, we also went through the challenge of what happens if a fire happens? What happens if some sort of other natural disaster comes? What do you do with a building that has already been designated? And so we've done some work with that, including with the problem. And there's still going to be some questions around that. That is going to come in the next number of months, but so far we're leaving it that the province will provide more of that information. We're also trying to set up a website after we've had a chance to go through a little bit of research with some independent website developers. We're very, very happy that the city of Macomb has come forward to us and said, we'll do it for you. And there will be no cost. So we're in the process of defining exactly what we would like to see on that particular website. Every building that is considered to be approved for demolition, and as you are aware, In the past, it was always any building over 50 years old would automatically have to go through the Heritage Resources Committee. Well, that has changed now in your last bylaw 397, if I have the number correct. So it means that any building that is listed on the COIL list will now be automatically considered for demolition without going to NPC. And so it makes it a little bit different in the process. So that means that the HRC in that sense is not involved in the same way. And so, but whatever the case, when a building is approved for demolition, HRC is asked and mandated, quote unquote, to go through the building to confirm if there's any sellable items that may be worth selling again. And we have done that this past year. We went through a house and picked up a whole bunch of things. Like that glass doorknob, as an example, is one of the items that we picked out of the house this particular year. We do have a storage shed on Public Works property, which is where we store these items that are there. If anyone is looking for a vintage clawfoot tub, we have one available. Needs a little bit of work, but it's available. But whatever the case, the reality here is that you need appointments to get onto the public work property right now because of the code regulations. So we haven't pushed selling anything. It won't rot inside that building, so we're not too worried about it. Once things kind of soften up a little bit, we'll be able to do that again, trusting that we will have easier access into the property. Heritage Conservation Grant funding is one of the bigger items that we always run through. This particular year, partly because 2020 was not that active, we did not have any applications for that Heritage Resource or Heritage Conservation Grant funding. But we did have one that was left over from 2020. And as you can see in that one photo, there is restoration happening right now at the blacksmith shop. And once that is complete, there will be around $5,900 coming out of that amount. And that is why we're asking for a $5,000 amount, which is actually half of what we were asking for. The bigger item I ask is going to be the places of interest list, because the things have changed in the way that things are being done, and because the management plan that was already agreed to and approved in 2013, there is a need to review our COIL list. COIL is the places of interest list, as you can see there. It confirms any buildings that are 50 years and older, and actually what it has done is any buildings that are 40 years and older, so that we know what's coming up. And that's a means of going through city archives to confirm which building qualifies for that, going through all those buildings, not physically, but going through all the addresses and the information that is there on them, and then confirming whether or not we have some more buildings that we would like to place on the COIL list. The COIL is there because it is a place of interest. That's as simple as that. And because this list is already almost 10 years old, well, it's actually over 10 years old, because the first report was confirmed in 2010 when the COIL list was created, but the majority of the work was done in 2009. So it's a matter of there is probably, I'm going to guess, 100 to 200 properties that would fit within that number. And I realized today, or yesterday, that as time goes on, if we do this every decade, the number is going to get higher and higher and higher, because the city of Macomb, of course, has expanded and is that much bigger than it was, of course, 50 years ago. So even my house, which I built in 1989, it being 28 years old. No, 32 years old. Oh, man. 32 years old. In 18 years from now, which is kind of blowing me away. But that is the reality here, is that we've got, as time goes on, all these newer homes that were built, I shouldn't say newer, excuse me, my house is 30 years old. These houses that were built in that time span, they're going to be added to that list. And when we have, 75 houses, brand new houses, units being built in a year, guess what? You multiply that times 10, that's 750. So it may become necessary as time goes on, if we want to keep this heritage program going, to have a revisit of that file list potentially every 5 years. The actual management plan actually tells us to do it more frequently than that even, but we're at the point where it has been 10 years and I think it is time that we do that. So our reality is that based on our initial work that we've done, we've received a number of prices, and we feel one of the companies that we approached was involved with the original list. And she's still doing this work, and she is very good at it. And so her pricing, including some little bit extra money that we anticipated for some public engagement and advertising, again, that sort of thing, would be in that $45,000 range. We do realize that the government of Alberta could potentially, and this is the key word, could potentially look at providing 50% of that amount. So we in turn are asking that the city of Macomb is able to provide a $22,500 amount for this coming year. It may end up being spent over a 2-year time period. We don't know that exactly for sure. But the reality is that it needs to be done in order for us to maintain that places of interest list, in order to maintain the operation of this committee and to show the input and the willingness to accept the fact that we have historic structures within the city of Macomb. I did take one of the pictures that I put in there is the Morrison House. The owner of the Morrison House was in the city for a number of years, and we're kind of hoping that we can twist his arm so that we can put his house eventually for designation as well, because it is truly worthwhile. Part of our requirement for, as part of our committee too, is to stay on top of what's new, what's going on. Professional development is trying to promote, as you can well imagine, that's kind of by the wayside last year. And we did support our, partially our executive director of the Macomb District Historical Society to go to a course. We supported her for a part of that fee that she had. And I believe it's been very worthwhile for her work on the committee, but also for a member of the committee to be a little bit more cognizant of what's going on. Even, I mean, this is an area of study, but we are all volunteers. So therefore, unless we have some historic background, it is a matter of having genuine interest in this. And so that's why it's important that we have some funding available to make this happen. We are asking for $1,600, which is actually lower than it was in the previous year. As part of the, as noted prior, we did have some requests for demolition, which of course now is happening a little differently. So therefore, we did have 4. One of the buildings, 2 of the buildings actually are still standing. And we'll see what happens from there. I actually did check out the house that was approved for demolition that we managed to get that salvageable material from. But the reality is that's part of the work. 2022 committee work. I started listing everything that we are hoping to be able to do in 2022. Majority of it is very low cost. It's part of our time that we put in. Of course, the number 1 item on there is the update and review of the places of interest list. That's the one that has the big money, quote unquote, that we're asking for. But other than that, we do appreciate the support that we've been getting from the city. It has changed a little bit over the last few years. I'm chair, I've been chair for 2 years now, and the amount of work that is required by the chair now is quite a bit more than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So that is just a reality of the position, as well as the way that the city wanted to operate this particular community. So you can see our budget summary there. I didn't add it up, but you can add it up real quick. 33,900, I think it is total. Realizing that the amount that we are requesting, other than the places of interest list, is actually less than 2021. But it's the bigger item, of course, the 22,500 that we're really hoping that we'll be able to achieve with this particular budget cycle. We can move forward with that in the spring. And as soon as we know that this budget has been approved in December, when we're finished by the end of the year, then the committee will already start with an RFP process. We have to, if it is approved, we have to apply to the government by the end of February. No question, we'll hear probably in April-ish with the result of that, and then we can move forward, hopefully, with the RFP already lining up with that so that we can jump into it pretty quick. Do it through the summer. There you go. That was 17 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chair. Appreciate that. Any questions regarding the Heritage Resource Committee? I wasn't looking over there. Looking over here first. Councilor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Gullickson. So just one more clarification of places of interest. Like our houses are the same age. Truly, they're not going to be a place of interest when they're 50 years old, right? Like the idea behind this is not to have a mountain. Is that not correct?
So the list would be like 300 if we went by the previous numbers.
Right.
We selected back in 2010, 110 was selected. There has been no more added. Okay, no more added at all since that. So yes, 18 years from now, when our houses are 50 years old, it's not just the architecture and the appearance, etc. It's also so you know being a counselor. So you know that's part of the reality. It's not just architecture that they're looking at. Okay, it's character. It is definitely even landscape comes into it, and the cultural aspect of that particular building. And you know, by far the majority of the buildings that were listed on the FOIL were well over 50 years old. So, you know, it may be that once the FOIL list is revisited at 70 years, then they're going to say, well, guess what? We realize this house has some significance, and we're going to add it at that particular time. There's no guarantee. So what it means is that this particular list that's going to come up if we get approved, we'll probably add another 400, just guessing here, because it's just a matter of going through archives of the city when the building permits were taken out, et cetera, and who took them out and that sort of stuff. So if you look on the 2010 report, which is available online in the city's website, you'll see in the very back there's lists and lists and lists of houses or buildings that qualify, but only 110 of them were added to that list.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. Appreciate that. It's interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter. So we'll move on to our next presenters. It's the Mary Seymour Public Library, the committee I sit on. And nice to see you both. Can you hear us okay? Can't hear you, Linda. You're muted.
Okay, I'm unmuting.
You're unmuted now, good. And I'd like to welcome both of you to tonight's council meeting. Linda Nichols and Christina Westmore. Thank you very much for coming and presenting to us tonight, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so we have a presentation. Denise, am I supposed to do it from my computer? Oh, there you are. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for having us to talk to you here this evening. We're just going to give you a bit of a highlights things that we've been doing this year. We have a report, an infographic included, so you can follow along there. There's lots of numbers for those of you that like that. And we'll just go ahead with the next slide, please, Denise. Thank you. So throughout this time, we wanted to, of course, adhere to our current plan of service. And when COVID hit, the Mary C. Moore Public Library demonstrated our ability to adapt quickly to changing circumstances while continuing to offer as many services as possible to local parents, children, seniors, and the newly unemployed or underemployed as they coped with uncertainty, loss, and the lockdown. In recognition of our efforts, we were very happy to say the community voted us best in customer service and best in curbside pickup, the best local charity, and number 2 as a COVID hero. And that's mostly because of our takeaway kits, which I will describe a few to you now. Next slide, please, Denise. Thank you. In children's programming, although we had to close our doors to public access, we delivered information and entertainment by mail and through contactless curbside pickup. We adapted our in-person programs to online delivery and implemented take and make activity kits. The library handed out more than 2,580 children's take-home crafts and 1,903 website visits to our programming online. As well, over 70 children's book grab bags were taken home. More often than not, these bags would contain more than 20 books each. We also added our recently acquired STEM products to our catalog system for borrowing. Next slide, please. Our adult programs included many take-home kits as well. One such kit was the monthly care package, where the library, in partnership with a local business, would offer a take-home package including an item or items from our collection, a movie, a book, and a product from a local business, all based on a theme developed by the staff. As well, and the adult craft kits included all materials required to complete, many of these along the theme of our Plant, Bloom, and Grow programs, which we'll talk about later. The library handed out, thanks Denise. The library handed out 256 take-home kits, as well as 222 specifically during Seniors Week, 1,052 care packages, and gardening. The community recognized the library as somewhere they could go to get something to do. The Plant, Bloom, and Grow program was something that we wanted to put together because of all the interest, as you saw through FCSS's community gardens. So with funding from Alberta Blue Cross and Eco Energy Macomb, we partnered with Hannah Seeds and the EcoVision High School students and volunteers. Our initial program began online and at curbside, as you can see, we were handing out seed packages and information about growing. Through the Parkland Regional Library System, we increased digital contents, books, audio, homework, help, and 24/7 remote access, and ensured our free Wi-Fi access extended to the library's perimeter so that people could connect without having to enter the library. Implementing appropriate safety measures, our staff continued to work to keep our citizens connected to information, to learning resources, to entertainment, to employment resources, and to each other. We partnered locally and regionally to continue supporting our citizens. We finally reopened on July 5th, 2021 after a closure of almost 17 months. We welcomed patrons to see the newly renovated entrance space, which permanently houses our book sale items. Our first official book sale was held during Macomb days and was very successful. Okay, the next slide, please, Denise. So our Plant, Bloom, and Grow program could move outside. Again, we held our classes socially distanced, and we had speakers from the Ecovision groups, and we had different types of learning activities. Next slide. Our children's program really took off. We did a family Olympic torch relay event. We had about 20 families participate. So they had to construct their Olympic torch. They had to race from business to business using clues provided. Each family received a gift for participating and was entered into a draw for over $300. In-person programs in August had 210 children visits. Our fall programs, unfortunately, were full and had to be canceled. Our adult programming, again, just went kaboom. We had lots of crafts. We had lots of activities. Our book club came back together, and we had several different other activities for the adults. Next slide, please. While we were open, we could engage again with the community and participate in community events. We initiated our Community Voices activity. It's an open storytelling series that aims to share stories, perspectives, and challenges from a diverse range of local people. So participants basically get together and share a short story about their lives. Our first one was, how has the pandemic affected you? Unfortunately, we're now closed. Just as an update for you, libraries are considered entities that need to be accessed by the public for daily living purposes, and as such are not included in the organization businesses that can implement the restrictions exemption program. Libraries are directed to take other steps to mitigate the spread of COVID, masking, distancing, capacity at a third of the fire code, which is what we were following before. So we just re-implemented our same protocol. However, all indoor programs are not permitted at this time for adults. So they have all been canceled. The next slide, please. One of the things that we did do was we initiated our community survey for our future plan of service from 2022 to 2025, I think. So in June, we launched our online survey to provide community input to the development of this plan of service. We had over 270 community members participate in the survey using an online platform or filled out surveys through Seniors Week and Farmers Markets. The final report will be approved by the board in the next month or so, and our service priorities are not greatly changed from the previous plan. We will still have creating young readers. We will have visiting a comfortable place, physical and virtual, and satisfying curiosity, lifelong learning. With those priorities in mind, we will begin to put in place capital funding to replace some of our furniture, to seek more space, to provide more opportunities to enable our community to pursue lifelong learning in a comfortable place. Next slide, thanks. Once again, we've produced a community calendar featuring photographs by local community photographers. We received over 75 submissions and narrowed it down to about 40, organized by season. The library staff then conducted a blind vote for their favorite photos, which resulted in our final product. The calendars are available to purchase in a wall size and a desk size format. I'll just do that for you. They look really good. The proceeds for the sale of the calendar will be used to purchase equipment to enhance our library services, such as perhaps a 3D printer for use by the patrons for a fee, increasing the library lending program, such as our new snowshoe program that we have. We might include tools or sewing, for example. Are there any questions about the programming or any of these items before we go into the budget discussion?
Question? Proceed.
Okay, thanks. So in our budget request, we have three main objectives. We want to maintain our high level of customer service. We want to transition to our loss of fine revenue. It still has not come online, and that's something that we might consider keep deleting permanently. We'll have to see. We want to use some of our reserves for capital expenses. Next slide, please. So in our overview of the budget, we have $7,071 and $137 under income, if you want to look at the more detailed budget sheets. In that, we have no fine revenue. We have increased our membership revenue slightly, and most other numbers, including those from provincial and other areas, have remained the same as 2021. So in our expenses, we have an increase in our wages and benefits. We are looking at giving our employees a step on their wage grid. We have a decrease in board and office expenses and a decrease in our magazine and newspaper subscriptions because we have a very robust online service for those. So we're promoting access to magazines and newspapers through our library. It's a special program. And next, please. So overall, our difference in income is slightly above. Our increase in the City of Macomb grant is about $8,900 or 2.7%. As a frontline community service, we witness the impacts of these challenging economic conditions on personal level. We strive to always provide the best possible return on the funds you invest in the library. We also strive to meet the evolving needs of our community as a whole and each individual we serve, whether through literacy development, broadband access, lifelong learning, exploring and troubleshooting technology, access to reading material in appropriate formats, and through safe and welcoming spaces. Our board is aware that both municipal and provincial governments are facing economic challenges. We will continue to partner with you to support the financial well-being, mental health, and continued connection to our citizens and to maintain the vitality of Macomb. Thank you for your ongoing financial support. We could not offer the range of services and supports that we do without municipal and provincial funding. And that's it for us. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Chair Nicol. Thank you for your report, and I hope we have an opportunity to work together for a little bit longer anyway. So,
yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for representatives from the library? Yes, Councillor Hoekstra.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I'm just looking at your stats. It is amazing to know what you did. But I am curious about the 54,000 free Wi-Fi sessions per day. Curious
yes.
about that. How does that work?
Actually, you would be very surprised, even during our lockdown, the libraries closed how many people would be sitting outside in the parking lot at the LMC. And they would be using the Wi-Fi.
That's my typo. That's from January 1st to September 20th. That's how many we had. Sorry.
Yeah.
I missed that, Cora. The great question, great catch. We had that many login from January 1st, 2021 to September 20th, 21.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I didn't catch that.
Well, I'd just like to say, I think my grandchildren used about 1,000 of those crafts that you gave out of the 2,000. So I think they were very well received and certainly well done. They were excellent.
Yeah.
And congratulations on the awards that you're getting from the chamber, the community.
Yes.
Sounds
Quite
like
excited
about that. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. Just a quick question. I believe that at least while you were closed down, you had sort of put donations on pause. Is that still the case, or are you now accepting donations again?
Yeah, we'll start accepting donations again. The reason we had it on pause is because they had to be put in quarantine, and we just didn't have the space to do that. So now they're not asking us to quarantine materials anymore, so we'll be able to do that again.
And that will be effective immediately, or has already started?
Already started.
We started about a month ago when we were starting to reopen. So we had quite a few donations for our initial book sale during Macomb Days.
Okay,
we had lots
perfect.
of stuff. Yeah.
I know I'm always quick to suggest that to people when they mention that they're, editing their belongings and whatnot. And I know myself, I like to donate as well. So that's good news. So thank you for that.
Oh, good. Great. Thanks.
Anyone else? Looks like you got off fairly easy. And thank you very much for your service over the last year under trying times. And great work, Christina, going out. Actually, I don't know if everybody knows this, but she was delivering books directly to people's homes.
Yeah.
Special service. So thanks again and for the extra effort. Appreciate it.
We love our community and we love what we do and we appreciate the support greatly.
Thank you very, very much.
So that's the end of our presentations tonight. We can move on to the next agenda item. I guess it is regarding the Garymo Sportsbook.
You do actually have two more internal presentations, that being the 2022 capital budget. 10-year capital plan, and they're just being given to you this evening. Of course, information. If there is specific questions, of course, or necessary direction, you can receive that. Give you the timing of the workshop election. It's probably best to proceed for information tonight. Ready to discuss that.
Sorry about that, Senior Manager McKinnon. I didn't mean to snub you there. It was an accident, trust me.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor Gullickson and Council. I'm here to present for Council's consideration the proposed 2022 capital budget. The City of Macomb's 2022 draft capital budget includes 33 projects, which are listed in the report. The total expenditures is estimated at $10.77 million, and the proposed capital budget will be funded by $7.82 million from grants, $2.62 million from reserve withdrawals, and $0.33 million from other contributions. For the 2022 capital budget, a column beside each capital project indicates what the financial impact will be on the operating budget. And the total combined operating impact for the 2022 proposed capital projects is approximately $253,000. This 2022 capital budget will be updated with any other desired amendments from Council. And the updated version of the capital budget will be provided and discussed during the November 8th and 9th Council workshops. In November 22nd, Council will deliberate the capital budget. I'm happy to take any questions or feedback from council on the proposed 2022 budget.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Senior Manager McKinnon? Seeing none, I think you can move on, or do you want to, we need to address?
Just accept as information.
Councilor Gibbs?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I'll move that we accept that as information. The capital budget for 2022.
Thank you very much. Councilor Connick?
So as what you alluded to, CEO Guy, yeah, I was kind of looking for some more info on somebody, but I guess we're just gonna.
Yes, you should also have access to the project, individual capital project summaries for each of those projects. Digitally, for sure, you can put on each project and take each more information. And I believe those have been in hard copy as well. But if you have questions, you can answer them.
Okay, no, that's great that you said that, because I actually tried to click on it and they didn't work for me. Maybe that was just me. Anyone else try it? Okay, well, that is fine.
The intent was certainly that they press the fluid to people that I got from the website.
Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Maybe it's here.
If you press on the item here up in the blue, it should come up for information. Yeah.
It's a control click.
Oh, yeah, not on the iPad, it's not. But I don't know if it's because of the Wi-Fi. Anyways, I could try.
We will double check. It should be working, it was working for us, but it was not working for you, so we'll just.
It doesn't, yeah, very possible percent does not open the iPad, so.
We'll get that corrected for you, correct that.
Perfect.
Anything else, Councilor Connick? Then? Anyone else? So we have a motion on the floor to accept this as information. All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Back to you again.
Now I'm here to present the first draft of the 2022 to 2031 capital plan. So the purpose of the 10-year capital plan is to outline the future capital requirements of the City of Macomb based on council's priorities and existing infrastructure maintenance requirements. The first year of the 2022 to 2031 capital plan is a capital budget 2022, which we just discussed, and that would authorize capital expenditures for the City of Macomb. The remaining 9 years, 2023 to 2031, are for planning only and are not authorizing expenditures. The projects by division for the capital plan can be found in Appendix 1. The estimated capital expenditures represented in the capital plan are $79.6 million before inflation. The estimated funding sources for the capital plan are debentures, $9.8 million, grants, $30.5 million, other contributions, $5.3 million, and reserve withdrawals, $34 million. The major projects considered in the 10-year capital plan include a public works building, roads renewal program, aquaplex facility upgrades, fire hall, fire ladder truck replacement, and a new water reservoir and decommissioning of pump house B. Debt financing is a major source of capital funding for municipalities. The current interest rates are favorable for financing construction of or acquisition of long-term assets with debt. By acquiring new debt at rates below 3%, the city is able to meet the capital investment objectives and stay within the council policy for debt servicing and debt limits. The tax rate increase due to the additional borrowing in the 2022-2031 period is shown in Appendix 4. The City of Macomb's 2022-2031 capital plan is based on a number of assumptions that is outlined in the report. The next steps in the budget process are finalizing a capital plan, which council will review during the November 8th and 9th workshops. The council budget deliberation will occur on November 22nd, 2022, or 2021. I'm happy to answer any questions you have on the capital plan.
Thank you, Senior Manager Kinnan. Any further questions? Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gulson. I think I brought up this before on the previous budget deliberations, but for example, the fire department, could we not be doing a significant amount of reserve annually so that we're not borrowing for equipment? For example, public works, it is in your capital replacement program where it's not borrowed, it's as the lifetime of that equipment is projected. Like in the future, could we deal with the fire department differently to have reserves put in place so we're not like basically we're just finishing the loan on the aerial and starting another one, correct?
So I can't comment on why those decisions have been in the past. I know, sure there was a good reason why they did it. As far as putting money away for the future, the majority of the equipment is funded through the replacement reserve. The fire truck. Was never. If you were to look at the fire hall you mentioned, certainly you could look at putting money away, but either you're making reserve contributions or you're making payments, venture payments. So credit is that you can buy today and pay over 25 years versus saving up that money. So yes, back 25 years from now and say, start saving for the fire hall, sure, but then people would have been paying taxes back fast. So it is, I would prefer to fund things like that, for sure. I don't think
I'm just comparing the equipment, like public works, your have a plan lifespan of it specific to know that in 10 years we're replacing the grader, for example, right?
Yeah, so I would say when the equipment is replaced, I'm making sure that those are plan, that is happening. But with the company well in advance of our ability to put enough away, these instances, you are going to end up taking out some sort of.
Okay, that's right.
Further question, Councilor Coniff.
The money that you've allocated for the fire hall, I don't know. So I don't know for public works, so if that was enough, and it's not nearly enough. I fear that number might be low. Is that?
I have more confidence on the number for public access rights. Fire hall, because that is based on comparative facilities. Works on the wasn't actually based on estimates for that facility, it was based on opportunity in terms of privately held building. And the original price for the first one is actually just over 7 million. Here, these costs are happening compared to facilities. So I'm never totally confident on that project 2 years out.
Any further question? Councilor Hoopsville.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I had about the road renewal program. Is this independent of this proposed tax that we are?
That's supported by the proposed tax.
It is. Okay, I was curious. Okay.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I would move that council accept this report as information.
Any further question? No? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now we can. So we'll move on to 5.1, the Gary Moe Health Protocols. Director LaPointe, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I will point out that all of you are a little choppy on the other side of things. So if I don't respond to your questions afterwards in a prompt manner, it's not that I'm ignoring you. So good evening, Deputy Mayor Gullickson and Council. This evening, administration is presenting options for COVID-19 measures at the Gary Moe Auto Group Sportsplex. As you are aware, new public health restrictions came into effect on September 20th, 2021. These guidelines required recreation facility operators to adhere to new restrictions or advance a restrictions exemption program, also known as an REP. Rather than making an immediate decision, administration chose to accept the current restrictions-based approach while evaluating the two options in greater detail. This process involved analyzing comparator municipalities, consulting the Macomb and District Recreation Parks and Culture Board, and meeting directly with impacted user groups. The current restrictions are separated into youth, those under 18, and adults over 18. Youth are permitted to participate in activities provided they screen for symptoms, maintain distancing, and mask if they are not engaged in the activity. Spectator attendance is limited to 1/3 capacity, and those individuals are required to mask as well. Those in attendance must be from a single household or 2 close contacts if living alone. Adults are not able to participate in group classes or activities, and competitions are not allowed for adults unless organizers implement the REP. Alternatively, the REP enables organizers to operate without most restrictions except masking, so long as they provide a valid proof of vaccination, proof of a negative test in the last 72 hours, or a documented medical exemption. The review of our 11 comparator municipalities, updated just this afternoon, indicates that 8 have now adopted an REP and 3 the restrictions-based approach. The item may be valuable to any decision, as adopting a uniform approach between facilities will benefit our users and those visiting from other communities. As for the feedback collected, the initial response was predominantly negative to the concept of the REP, with much of that feedback centered around restricting unvaccinated youth from participating in sports. The Macomb District Recreation Parks and Culture Board felt it was important to launch the REP, contingent upon confirmation that youth under 18 could still participate in the sport or activity without proof of vaccination. Finally, the user group discussions yielded a range of concerns with both approaches. The biggest for the current restrictions-based approach was the limited ability of their organizations to manage the required health measures. And conversely, groups anticipated a loss of volunteers or registrants should the REP be implemented. There were some further developments towards the end of last week where the Chief Medical Officer of Health confirmed the REP only applies to adults and facility spectators over 12. This confirmed the Macomb District Recreation Parks and Culture Board's assertion that youth would be permitted to participate in sports and activities regardless of the approach employed. It is worth noting that the logistics around managing this accommodation are still under review, with an update to the operational guidelines expected sometime this week. One final note is the Macomb Curling Club is implementing the REP for their upcoming season. And of course, this evening, administration is presenting this report for information. And with that, I am open to any comments or questions you may have.
Thank you, Director LaPointe. I have a question regarding age 12 and over on the rep side of it. So under the other side, the first option, they would be allowed to participate 12 to 18, all up to 18 years of age to participate in sports. But under the REP program, 12 to 18 would have to prove vaccination. That's correct?
So we were able to ask, or at least we submitted a question through to the Chief Medical Officer of Health last week to provide some clarity around that very question. And she confirmed that under either program, youth will be permitted to play all the way up to the age of 18 years of age. Where the logistics need to be worked out is how you access the facility at that point. So In other words, the comment that we had was they can go in and play sports. They have to leave after they're done their sports. If they chose to hang around in the building, they would be obligated to actually submit proof of vaccination at that point.
And of course, the parents would have to submit.
Correct.
If they came into the building. Now, if on the first option, without using the restrictions program, we would have no adult sports. Is that correct? No adult hockey, for example, at the arena would be allowed.
Yes and no. If it's led by the municipality, the direction is that we have to choose one or the other choices at this point. Right now, we're kind of straddling both. But as I understand it, and CAO Gowdy can confirm this, I think that that is not following it to the direction that Alberta Health is prescribed at this point. However, if it is a renter, the renter can choose to implement an REP themselves. So there's a difference between whether the municipality is leading the programming or if it's a renter who's taken on the event or activity themselves.
Because the way I read this is that in the first option, youth is allowed to play any of their sports, but not
unless they choose to implement an REP. So they can actually have an REP specific to their activity.
Right, okay. Councillor Ross?
Thank you, Premier Gopson. So to reiterate, obviously these individuals under 18, or especially under 16, are going to require transportation. Well, then therefore, their parents cannot enter the building currently without proof of vaccination.
Correct.
Not correct.
Sorry, under the REP, correct.
That's what I meant. REP is what is, if you're going to follow provincial, that's the REP, correct? That's correct. So then, really, you could still have non-vaccinated kids playing with vaccinated, and then back interacting with and so forth when they go back to their parents that are not allowed in the building unless they're vaccinated. So you're still integrating vaccinated and non-vaccinated, theoretically, right? So it's kind of like, how are we, it's still the intent is to segregate non-vaccinated and vaccinated, what the province is trying to do. Yet, to try to keep the youth active this is very confusing. It's to implement it, to enforce it, it's going to be confrontational. And it's going to put staff in the position of enforcement. I don't know.
Councillor Bookstrom.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I think there's no winning with this one. And it's really unfortunate that we are tasked with this. But I'm coming at it from a place that this is a city-owned building that is owned by the citizens of Macomb. And I cannot be part of a decision that prevents any citizen from entering that building. Let's remove this healthcare thing. Why should we be given that power to say you belong and you don't? And I hear what Councillor Ross is saying. It's not accomplishing what people wanted in the first place. I really think we can't sit there and say we're going to separate parents from their children. Parents are part of the whole spectator piece of this and the support for their children. I'm very thankful that age to 18 can play under these two programs. But we as councillors, do we really want to say you belong and you don't in a city-owned building? Let's just remove why we're doing it. It is quite a drastic thing to suggest, in my opinion. But more importantly, this is, children need to be with their parents going to these sports. So I certainly would want to go with operating in compliance with provincial restrictions. And a big pro that is missing there is that all citizens can enter a city-owned property or a property that they own as citizens.
Councilor Jacobson?
Yeah, so it's one 100% clarify, so you have a restriction exemption program in place, and you are not vaccinated, you do not yet privately pay for rapid test, you can send your child under 12 in for sports, but you cannot accompany them, correct?
Correct.
So I'm just pointing out something, in case some of you guys are aware, that's for the curiosity, I went to look to see what it takes to get a privately funded rapid test. The drugstore I went to, they didn't even know how to get it, and they said it was $40 to get it. Again, I'm cognizant of not delving into areas that are out of my purview, but I do think that's a little bit unrealistic. I compare with all of them.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I guess I too am in support of just the restrictions rather than implementing the program. I think that our priority has to be children, but by extension it is families, and it's just all users, honestly, on the grand scheme of things, have a better option of being able to use the facility by just going with the restrictions versus going in ahead with the program. I'd like to point out what vaccination rates are in this area. For the 12 to 19 set that are fully vaccinated, you're looking at 43%. And not surprisingly, the next cohort, next age group, the 20 to 39, which is approximately their parents, are also that same set. So that is a minuscule amount of people to me. If you look at least one dose, it goes slightly higher by about 10%, but I think that factors in. I do want to highlight a particular point that Councillor Jacobson brought up, and that's the fact that you may have kids that are potentially able to participate, but if their parents are not able to help with that, then I'm not sure that it's very realistic to expect that those kids are going to be able to participate in their sports, because if you've got, let's say, an 8-year-old that is involved in a sport, to expect that the parent is literally going to drop them off at the front door and hands-free after that because they're not able to enter into the building is hugely problematic for me, as far as being able to get that child ready and in the right place to be managing. Like, it's tough on a coach if they're the only person that's in the room and they have to try and tie everybody's skates and make sure they're not out in the hallway misbehaving. And like parents are a very integral part of sports, and we can't have that, can't have it acceptable to shut them out. The building itself is definitely able to hold an occupancy that is very large. This 1/3 fire code capacity is easy to achieve. I don't see any challenges there specifically. Is there going to be a few bumps in the road? Yes, I'm sure. We talked about, our facility staff going to have to enforce. Honestly, they're going to be unfortunately put in a situation where they're going to have to enforce somewhat regardless of whatever the case may be, because even under the restrictions, you're still having to separate, you're still not having to, there are additional things. The other thing I wanted to mention as well, question is the arena or the sports complex itself is used as kind of a drop-off point for kids, particularly before school, for the younger age groups. So I'm just wondering, what kind of complication does that add to the use of the facility, or does it?
That's logistically. We look at that very thing. We have a lot of kids before and after school. You now have staff or someone responsible if there's a purchase exemption program in place for determining which children are 12 and older, and approaching them to make sure they get proof of some kind for those children, others. There's a lot of logistical challenges, no matter which way you go, but the restriction exemption program certainly does offer more work pressure and difficulty for staff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Johnson. So, question and then some comments. So, if team from Macomb travels to Sylvan Lake, where the REP program is in place, of course the kids can play. Will the coach of the Macomb Rockets team have to prove that they are vaccinated to enter that facility?
Yes.
And so
Correct.
too will the parents.
That is correct.
Not the kids, I get that. So the whole team can walk in there, but if the coaches aren't vaccinated, you could potentially have a team going there. Obviously, I'm hoping the coaches are vaccinated. You obviously have a team going to Silver Lake, Cochrane, Beaumont. Well, I don't think we travel that far, but anyways, I highlight Silver Lake because I know we play against Silver Lake. If the coach is not vaccinated, they could potentially not enter the building, correct? No, that's, sorry, I just wanted that to be clear to people. I guess I struggle with this a little bit. I get under 18, absolutely. These kids are already, the vaccinated and unvaccinated are already intermingling in school. Nobody's asking for vaccine passports at school, so that's clear to me. I struggle with the adult piece, but I get it, as Councillor Hibbs has alluded to, and all of you have alluded to it. I mean, can't expect a parent to not enter the building to tie his kid's skates if he's unvaccinated. Who's going to do that? I mean, the coach? I mean, it's logistics are a nightmare. The only thing I'd like to point out is the hypocrisy that strikes me when people say, I have a right to this building, I'm a taxpayer, we've seen it in the letters, and yet as a taxpayer who is fully vaccinated, I can't enter the healthcare system. So the hypocrisy of that just drives me insane, that, you know, we demand this, but yet that same right is being denied me to access our healthcare system. But anyways, that's, at the end of the day, you're right. Restrictions is far easier logistically within the REP. But that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you for that. Anyone else? Councillor Hoopstra.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Henderson. I feel I need to speak to that because Councillor Connick and I have been sparring over this, but I really feel strongly that the problems that we have with our healthcare system existed before this. It's actually an independent issue, and we need to keep them separate. It's unfortunate that our healthcare system could not. It wasn't prepared for this in 2019 either. So we shouldn't muddy the waters here. This is two independent issues. They just happen to appear to citizens that they're 100% correlated. But I purposely did not talk about, I just talk about access to buildings in our city, and are we as councillors in a place that we are going to dictate who can be there and who can't be there. And then more importantly, as Councillor Hibbs said, are we comfortable with saying that child is not allowed the assistance of their parents? I'm not comfortable with it. Children need their parents in sport, in school, in all kinds of supporting ways, and I support them connected with their child.
Well, I have a question, Director Lapointe. You had a situation where the coach of a minor hockey team was vaccinated. The team was, the adults involved with it, the coaches were practicing that. And we have those restrictions on. They would have no right to ask parents as they came into the dressing room and assisted those children, whether they're vaccinated or not. Is that not correct?
I'm sorry, you broke up just a little bit there, Deputy Mayor.
Well, just whether the coaches would have the power to say, I want to know if you're vaccinated coming into the dressing room. I assume not.
No.
So when you're in those situations, with very close contact within those areas, they would still have to try and maintain the 2 meters distance, is that correct? And be masked in the facility?
Yes, not the participants, but the adults would have to.
The adults would have. And they would have to have 2 meters distance between themselves and other adults, but not other children?
That's my understanding. CEO Gowdy, were you looking to make a comment there?
I am not as confident that they could not do that, because a renter of a facility has the ability to say yes or no to a participant in their activity based on their own set of regulations, restrictions. So I think that if a minor hockey team wanted to go above and beyond the restriction exemption program, the lack thereof in a specific facility, that they may be able to do so. I can't take a definitive stance, but I think you could, because similarly, you rented a room at the LMC, you could implement an RDP on for that rental.
Yeah, I just have a concern about, you talk about the dressing rooms and Katie, and you've been involved in those over the years. I mean, it can be crazy, and you're not going to be able to maintain those distances. And if I'm correct, a number of the people, if not the majority, would not be masked anyway. And who's going to enforce that? Our staff? Very difficult. Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gulson. So I was just going to allude a little bit to CEO Gowdy. So this minor hockey is obviously renting the ice from the city, correct, per hour? So they could have, obviously, for contact tracing, they could implement their own for purpose of contact tracing and their own policies. Right.
Similarly, they could say no children with a history of concussions are allowed to play on our team. Or I think there's a number of factors that they can determine who is or is not allowed to participate in the activity that they're carrying on in a rented space.
You know, there's so many different ways. I think we're already got about 16, 18 months into this. And personally, I think we're going to be 3, 4 more years. I don't think it's ever going to be a normal again. And, you know, we have increase in suicides, opiates. There's so many other different avenues of COVID that's created mental health stress to everybody. It's affected everybody in so many other different ways, not even including medical, yet medical in our health should be the utmost importance. But yet, you know, we've confined our kids in stay-at-home learning. I've heard from parents to say that they're concerned about their teenagers and children because of just not being mentally happy because they won't have interaction with their friends. And then now we see so much division between families and friends and neighbors in our community over COVID, and you know, to the medical community, it's almost a slap in the face because we have such a low vaccination rate. We should be promoting vaccination. But on the other hand, I think we're trying to manage mental health with our families and our kids. And there's a no-win situation, but I do support the restrictions, so.
Can I just make 2 comments? I've been waiting here. I didn't want to interrupt, but I want to clarify that it is the renter's responsibility to enforce the rules under the restrictions route. So our facility staff will not be tasked with telling people to stay out or wear masks or ensure that we're at capacity ratios when they're in that building. So the concern from the renter side of things, from the user group side of things, is that they don't have the organizational capacity to do that. So I want to, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, I'm just pointing out that with the restrictions approach, there are concerns from the user groups as well. The other piece that wasn't included in the memo, because I did not get a definitive answer from Alberta Health Services, was how this impacts something like public skating or public swim. So of course, generally speaking, adults would attend those events and skate or swim with their children. And we talked to two different health inspectors, one who said that is a sport, and so adults can't participate. And then we spoke to another health inspector who said that's a facility and adults can participate. So there is the opportunity, you know, as we get further definition here, that that could go either way at this point as well. So just so we're clear again, that we didn't have that clarity at this point, but I thought it was important to share that information so you had that this evening as well.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you for that. As far as the restriction program goes, then you're saying even under that portion of the program, it would be up to that individual hockey team who's renting the facility to enforce those regulations of 1/3 capacity. It should be relatively easy, but also the social distancing and masking. It would be up to them to enforce that.
Right, and again, there was a particular user group, you know, usually when you're talking about bantam or midget aged hockey players, their friends, you know, their girlfriends, you know, their significant others tend to attend those events. And there was issues trying to monitor that, the crowd in those circumstances. So again, just from speaking to those user groups, that was the concern really on the restriction side of things.
Councillor Connick?
So just for my own clarification on the restrictions program, how does that affect something such as the Macomb Generals, for example? Will they institute their own, or will it just be, again, 1/3 capacity for the building? Clearly these are all adults, so again, there's no restrictions to participate other than that they have to be masked when they're in the dressing room maybe, or just, I'm just looking for clarifications for, excuse me, a program like that.
From what I understand, I think the generals would be responsible for implementing an REP. Otherwise, they could not play hockey. Nor could they have spectators in the stands.
Councillor Moss, you had a question?
Well, I was kind of alluding, thank you, Deputy Mayor Gobson, to Councillor Connick, is to further that, if we went the rep program, then minor hockey is then responsible for enforcing that, correct?
Then we would have staff checking every person who over 12 years old who entered the facility. So at each door, we would have staff.
You're playing 12 to 18, still gets in vaccinated or not, under the rep program?
So a couple of questions. Can we have a hybrid program? You can't go hybrid, okay. But it was about policing this or whatnot. So why do we have staff that can police the REP program, but we can't have staff that can walk the building to ensure restrictions are met? Why is that? Why is it left to the user group with restrictions but not the REP? I guess I'm curious about that. And then I can.
So the way the province has approached it is they said, if you leave it to the user groups, it must be in their contract. They are responsible for adhering to the restrictions. If the municipality was told, then it's a facility-wide thing, and we ask the same, can you one over here, one over there, or can you do this way one day and weekends a different way? And they were very clear, no, that's not allowed. And so it's just the way that the province has determined how the restrictions are to be implemented. That makes that difference. It is.
But why can't city staff police then just the restriction program? If you're willing to do the REP part, why can't city staff do the other part?
as the province requires that obligation to be put on user groups for the facility through their leasing.
We have to revisit these leases.
Director, the point, do you have any idea of how many even under the restrictions program, on our adult programs that run there, adult hockey or older, higher level hockey, how many users we're going to lose? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Parks and Facilities manager had mentioned that there's 7 adult groups that use the facility. So they would have to be compliant with an REP themselves in order to use the facility. Yeah, I think those are the numbers. Where it gets a little confusing from the municipality side of things, and again, CAO Gowdy can confirm this, I believe too. I do believe that they're hoping that the municipality will be one way or the other. And so right now we've sort of, we've been managing some adult programming in the pool, for instance, where we have Aquasize, and we are offering an REP in order to allow that to move forward. But ultimately, if we are to be compliant, if that's the way that we understand things at this point, those classes will have to end.
So, sorry, but I think it is important to understand that we operate in a regional context. And so to say that we will lose players from teams, adult players, whether we implement or don't implement an REP, I think is a bit misleading, because those teams play regionally, and the majority of those facilities do have an REP. So it's very unlikely that me as an adult hockey player, that I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to join the team. I'm not vaccinated, and I can only play in one of 10 facilities that you play games in. I think they will sit this season out if they're not vaccinated.
Yeah, and I would concur. I think that is what's been happening for the most part here, is that they're operating with REPs individually, and anybody who does not want to play has been sitting the season out. I would agree 100%.
Councilor Hoekstra?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gordon. So are you saying, Director Lapointe, that if we go with the restriction program, then all those seniors that do Aquasize in the pool, their program will not be able to carry on? So it's almost balancing children with adults. Is that a little bit what we're doing here?
There is a measure of that, although again, the clarity around these things is always changing. And that's the fear. Again, I pointed out earlier, the public skate versus the public swim, we called for clarity and got 2 different answers. So, I think we thought that because renters could use the facility and implement an REP themselves, the municipality should have that capacity to do that as well. But it sounds like that's not necessarily the direction that is being provided.
So when it comes to the adult programs at the pool, are they considered a renter?
They're not considered a renter. So there is some diversity in practice of how this is being implemented across Alberta. So I know that I sat on a call with CAOs inside cities. Several are taking the approach that we are, allowing, for example, Aquasize to go ahead on a specific REP program. Others have interpreted it a different way. No, the municipality, it's got to be one way or the other. We have not gotten a final answer.
So if we can do that, then we can continue on with the adult program and still allow children to come from schools or whatever to use the facility.
Yes, and that's how we are operating currently. And unless we receive explicit direction otherwise from AHS, that's how we would.
Councilor Connick?
And sorry, I don't remember if it's in here or somewhere else. What is the curling club doing? Are they doing an REP?
Girl.
How is that different than from who's their group? Like how are they different from the program at home?
They are not.
It's an adult program, so, well, and that's, the youth will still be able to come in to curve. They can just do the adult. Where they're running, where they're running into an issue, is there's some youth that curl in adult curling. So they may not be able to,
Right, if they're not,
if they're not vaccinated. They may have to vaccinate to curl in the adult. Because those leagues would be a specific program, and that's what they're trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's, sorry.
Majority of the curlers in adult leagues are over 18. They will be required to have vaccinations, and certainly the lounge would be total. You'd have to have them.
so, sorry. So the credit card program will be placing it.
Absolutely. So, okay. And the other, have you heard, you know what the fines are? You heard the fines, $100,000.
Okay, yes, there's general fines available up to 100,000. Now, usually I like to look at history to determine what is most likely to happen in the future, and so the fines would be.
It's possible, but I mean, that's the fines that are out there, and that would go to the curling club, for example, if they aren't implementing that.
I think they would have to be flagrantly iconic in their violation for them to face a $100,000.
Yeah, I would think so too. Say, no, we're not doing it. But it would be pretty simple to pull the liquor license, which is not a problem. You broke the rule. Councilor Ross.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gillickson. I'll make the motion that the City of Macomb probably word out the restrictions instead of the RP, but it would be proper. Is it?
If your intent is to continue with restrictions only and not implement a facility-wide restriction exemption program, I would say you could either accept this report as information, or if you wanted to affirm, to say that the Gary Law Auto Group Sportsplex continue to adhere to provincial restrictions and not implement a facility-wide restriction exemption program.
Number 3. So then we are currently under restrictions right now, correct?
Yeah.
So then I'll just make a motion that council accept this information. Accepts this report as information, which would mean we continue as our current status as restrictions, correct? Okay, that council accepts this report as information.
That, any further questions? And then we can revisit this later if we straight underneath. Because I believe personally that these things are going to change continuously. And we may be in a position to have a choice, depending on how things fall out as far as the cases and so on. So if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Vote on the motion on the floor. Call the vote. Yes. Reluctantly. And then all those in favor, that's your favor too. Unanimous. So that, I must say that I was reluctant to vote for that, but I think it still protects the kids. And the rep will come into play for these hockey teams, bring in teams and everything that has to travel. They'll have no choice. All right. I believe that is everything. Not. I think we're all the way down to reports.
5.5.
We did it. Oh, no, we didn't. 5.5. Sorry, thank you very much. 5.5, reconciliation day. Councilor Connick, you brought that forward?
Certainly, thank you. I just wanted to just find out what we're doing as far as, no, I didn't get a chance to open your letter, CEO Gowdy, but I understand staff have that day off, is that correct? All staff, partial staff?
So it is in the city's hours of work policy that the city recognizes any declared municipal, provincial, or federal holidays, staff holidays, and so it will be observed.
And so I guess I'm looking for clarification on that. So does that mean the arena is closed that day? Does that mean the pool is closed that day? Does that mean City Hall is closed that day?
City Hall will be closed that day. Director LaPointe, do you have information on the hours that the pool and the Gary Auto Group Sportsplex are open? And do they plan to be open on staff holidays? Sorry, I don't know that.
I think in this instance, it is open. I would have to confirm the hours, but because of the lateness of the announcement of this holiday, I think there was already pool programming in place. But I think it's usually the standard, at least at the pool, to be open on stat holidays.
Okay, sorry. So I haven't been to the pool in a while. So for example, on Labor Day, the pool is open. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I just bring it up because again, it's in the press releases from Broken Black Balls observing the day, and I was wondering what we as a city were doing in official capacity. And I don't know, if that applies to the library either or what, but I get the short notice, but it is my hope that if this, obviously this is going to be an ongoing thing year after year, that we in future try to have limited hours or whatever, or maybe the arena's closed, whatever, going forward for this day. Maybe a press release just saying that City Hall is closed, that Public Works is closed, just informing people would be great. And that we do need to observe this fully.
So there are a couple options we've been discussing on the community services side of things. I don't know if you've noticed, but there are some orange shirts that have been hung strategically around the LMC and I believe at City Hall here. We were discussing whether or not it would be appropriate to fly the flags at half-mast. There's a direction from the government of Canada to do it for federal buildings, but not anything below that. Again, we had talked about providing some sort of orange shirt day in advance of that day, because obviously now it's a stat day, but encouraging everybody to recognize the day on Thursday. So use some social on Wednesday in advance of it to encourage that, this is to recognize this as a solemn day.
So do we need a formal motion from council regarding recognition of this day?
Do not, it is already embedded in your policy. However, we certainly will take Councilor Connick's suggestion. Takes media release to make sure people are aware of the possible change to our facility hours.
Yeah, sorry. And sorry, right to your point, the ideas that you suggested, I think are absolutely going forward. Again, it is short notice, it just, yeah, I think that's terrific going forward. I just, yeah, we probably should have talked about this sooner. I guess that's all that's to a little bit, but anyways, it's.
There's no need for anything on this item then? All right, thank you very much, Councilor Connick. Administrative report, Neil Gowdy, do you have one?
Yes, it is there. We'll look to it while I do it. only got to provide an update on our COVID pandemic response, which we provided the city. Of course, we are working budgets and the election priorities. And our first disclosure under the conflict procurement policy, the execution of my contract greater than $1 million or longer than 3 years is the extension of my Perfect Mind Recreation Program Management software for 5 years. Values approximately. Extension sourcing consideration procurement policy for the reasonable rationale that the city's entire system is set up on this system for major costs and disruption.
Sorry, Deputy Mayor Gullickson, the sound is cut out. We can't hear CO Gowdy speaking that last part.
So the city did extend its Perfect Mind Recreation Programming Management software for a 5-year extension period with an approximate value of $13,000 per year. Okay. Yes, Councillor Hibbs.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. A quick question about patios, actually. So I know the season's winding down, and I know that technically those permits are in place until October-ish. And so I'm just wondering, is that like beginning of December, they're off the street, or what does that actually look like?
Reckon the point will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's October 31st, and that means they must be off the street by that time. If they are not, we would potentially charge back the cost of doing so.
That is correct.
The reason I brought that up is just the weather looks like it's doable for outside for patio, and I was just wondering if it was October 1st or if it was the end of the month. I think that it's probably reasonable that it's, not practical by the end of the month. So that's all I just wanted to verify. Thank you for that.
Any further questions for CEO Gowdy? Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Gullickson. I appreciate and respect all of the water repairs, but the end result is road at 2A and 12. Is there a timeline for that will be properly replaced or repaired rather than washed for gravel?
Yes, it will be repaired for the end of the contract deadline, which I believe is also on October 31st. Exact timeline because my contract finish time, actual schedule between the award contract and the completion time to the contract. Choose better pricing because they're able to get it.
So in the meantime, could it be just be graded so it's a little more accommodating to low vehicles?
We can talk to the contractor and make sure they're meeting their requirements for interim speeds.
Thank you.
Anything else? On, you're okay. So, Councillor, you have anything to report?
These links don't work. Anyhow, my report is there. I too attended the weekend activities, and I did speak with the tourism director, and there was some significant changes made this year that caused for some of the delay in advertising and whatnot. So, but we really enjoyed what we did there for sure. And just to add to what you have in front of us, today I had a Macomb Foundation board meeting, and we ratified a motion that went through our emails last week that all staff of the Macomb Foundation has to be immunized. And because the foundation has an AHS contract and those employees had to be immunized, so they did pass that all staff of the lodge has to be immunized, but interestingly, the clients do not. So that was an interesting thing on that one. And the other thing is financially, the lodges are not struggling, but certainly not in a perfect financial spot because there's way more vacancies than they typically have due to people aren't able to move in or choose not to move in. That is my report.
Questions for Councillor Hoekstra? Councillor Jacobson. Report, Councillor Hibbs.
Yes, thank you. I have a submitted report. It's a little bit lengthy, but I do have a couple of comments. So one is sort of a follow-up to the August 9th date there. I have the Westview Trail. That was kind of our town hall meeting, etc. I did notice driving through the area the other day that the fence has been constructed on that one walkway that was a little bit of a topic. And I think the hedge has been cut back to some degree, but I can see that just visually it does look like it is infringing, I guess, on public property quite a bit. So I guess what I was wanting to follow up on is sort of where are we with that project? What is the feedback from residents at this moment in time? Because I do see the project, progressing, and so I just was wondering, how everything's going there. We haven't had an update on that. So.
Things are going well. Of course, the fencing is ongoing, and we have been working with residents to remove encroachments within the time frames, giving a couple of extensions for reasonable. Signage has been ordered. It is not here yet. Hoping it is delivered prior to winter. From that. The hedge, we're waiting to install the fence. It will be trimmed back to make sure that it's limiting the encroachment. Get away from the encroachment. As far as public feedback, we've only had one resident was opposed to the city's continued action. So that was one of the residents impacted by that fence we just discussed.
I had an interesting conversation with someone that lives on that street, but does not back onto that area specifically, and a longtime resident. They were quite shocked that there was an entry at that end of the street. They had no idea. So they've been living on the street for like literally decades and did not know that they could access that back portion. So, I mean, it's good that what we're doing, and I'm glad to hear that the city and residents can work together to make it happen, because I think overall it was a very good thing to do. So appreciate that answer. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up was, oh yes. So of course the active living fair was recent. The numbers were not surprisingly down. The interaction, I mean, I attended the event, as did everybody here, I believe. Because the numbers are down, certainly that impacted that situation. I just sort of, I know I've said this before, but I sort of reiterate again that I just really wonder if that is a very effective use of our time, of city resources. I am all about engaging with the public. In fact, I love that portion of this work. But I find quite often that I'm disappointed in the amount of effort that goes into it for what we get back. And I really think that we need to, going forward, revisit how we deliver that engagement, whether it's removing ourselves from that, putting ourselves in a different place. Like I almost suggest that being outside of the actual venue, in front of the doors, would be better, where you have to walk through us to actually go in, or just little ideas like that, just make it a little bit different. Because again, I just don't find that to be as effective as it could be, and I think we're missing an opportunity there. So that's just my feedback on that. I somewhat alluded to that in my report. If anybody has any questions, I would be more than willing to answer them, but otherwise that is it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Khan. No report. Okay, thank you. And then I did go over the commission and committee report minutes from the North Red Deer River Water Services Commission and the North Red Deer Regional Wastewater Services Commission, and of course the Parkland Regional Public Library. I'm sure you reviewed them, so if there's any questions regarding those. If not, accept the motion for that, I believe we need one. Yes.
I move that we accept all the reports and minutes as information.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? Thank you. And I believe that's the end of our agenda.
Just the council, right? Minutes.
For the minutes, yes. For the minute. Councillor Hoekstra?
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Thank you. Any concerns or questions? No, all those in favor? Thank you for that. And I get a motion to go in camera. Thank you, Councillor Koenig. You're in camera at 8:17. Are we going to, we need to do a motion for extension? Yeah. On that motion? You have to vote, yeah, we have to, okay. All those